Is Michelle not with us? Excuse me.
Yeah, welcome everybody to today's meeting of the Amherst Town Conservation Commission. It is 7:07 p.m. on Wednesday, the 18th of December. With us now are all except Michelle and Laura, including Aaron, Jack, and David Zomex. So I don't, other than the fact that today as co-chair or vice chair, I'll be chairing. I don't have uh, any other items to talk about. I think now with that, I'll just leave it to leave it to Aaron and David for your comments.
Sure. Thanks, Andre. I'll jump in really quickly. I know you have a busy agenda. I'll be extremely quick here. One announcement is that the Hickory Clubhouse, the old golf clubhouse at Hickory, is coming down mid-month. So that'll be an exciting development down there at Hickory that eyesore will be coming down and kind of makes way for more improvements around the existing parking lot and makes way for a ribbon cutting in the spring, early summer for the trails there. So more on that soon, but that structure will come down and that site will be graded and seeded in the spring and off it goes. We'll also in January or February, I'll work with Aaron and Michelle on a 2024 kind of a field project review. What did we accomplish in 24 out there in the field? And then we'll kind of look ahead to 25 and say, what are some of those projects that the department wants to complete in 2025 and what's the available funding for those projects? And then I'm excited that Aaron is going to give you all an overview of our CPA proposal. Thanks to Jason for being on that committee, and we're asking for funding for trails and bridges. And then our communications manager will be joining us in a little bit to talk to you all and tell you about our proposal for new signs for conservation areas and recreation areas. So that's all I have. I promised I'd be brief. Thank you, Andre.
And that you were, Dave. Thank you. Aaron, are there any other updates that from your end?
Dave, did you want to mention the title thing?
I'm sorry, the title?
My job title.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I did not get that memo out to the commission, but I'm excited to let you know that working with the town manager, we have decided that Erin is going to transition into a new, it's essentially a different position with a new title. She will, I'll assure you, she will still be doing all of the wetlands work she currently is doing, but her new title will be conservation agent and no longer wetlands administrator. And this kind of acknowledges all the great work she's been doing across the town on the open space and recreation plan, on working with me on conservation projects, working with the subcommittee on land use policy, and a whole host of other projects that she's doing. So I'm happy to announce that to the commission. Aaron has been with us for 5 years. Is that right, Aaron? So
Yes.
it's really appropriate to kind of give her this new title, acknowledging all the great work she's been doing beyond wetlands administration. So congratulations to Aaron.
Huzzah.
Congrats, Aaron.
Thank
Well
you.
deserved.
Thanks.
Well, we also just wanted to give all a quick heads up. We did have a winter meeting schedule that was a little different from before, where this month we met the first and third Wednesdays as opposed to the typical second and fourth. In January, we'll return to second and fourth Wednesdays of the month. So please keep that in mind. Also, a quick reminder that there was a drought declaration on October 1st of this year And we're at a critical level 3 drought as of the 18th of December. And what that means essentially is that, and please correct me if I'm stepping on the wrong limb, that you can't expect their results for wetlands determinations at this during drought time. If you can just correct me to the right word, if you have it.
Yeah, I mean, I
Better
think
word.
it's especially complicated right now with the drought and, it being winter. So usually like in winter conditions, you'd rely on, hydrology to give you the indicators. And since we don't have hydrology, it makes confirming wetland delineations really difficult. It's also during this time from a regulatory standpoint, you can't confirm, well, you can't overcome the presumption of perennial versus intermittent status. So that's an important regulatory issue that the commission has some limitation on during this time.
Thanks, Aaron. And now I suppose we can talk about land use permits, and then we'll go into the CPA presentation, or how would you rather do this, Aaron?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
All right.
So on an annual basis, we get a land use application from Amherst College, one for Fort River and one for Mill River for their macroinvertebrate study. So we recently approved the one for the Fort River, and now we just got in the one for the Mill River. That's issued annually, and I think the only condition we have is that they provide the results of the study back to us so we can put it on our website. So that one I think is pretty straightforward. The other one is a proposed or a requested wedding reception at Puffer's Pond. And for that one, staff is going to need a little time to review and come up with some recommendations to the commission, but it's in your packets if you want to take a look at it, and we'll talk about that one at a future meeting. So, I mean, tonight I was hoping that we could get an approval of the Amherst College macroinvertebrate study on the Mill River, so that I can get that approval out to them.
Well, sounds good. I noticed Alex had a hand up, and now Bruce has one. Bruce, why don't you go ahead, and then Alex, if you still want to say something, put your hand back up, and I'm calling you.
I just want to double check that the wedding is in October of 2026.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, we've got about a year and almost 2 years to figure this out.
Okay.
Okay. So let's go with the Amherst College application. Is there do we have any questions on it so far? All right, can we put that up?
Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
So I don't have a motion drafted, but
I'll move that we approve the land use application CLU 2418 for CLU 2418 for the Mill River macroinvertebrate study.
Second.
Okay, so we have Jason on a motion for the Amherst College macroinvertebrate study, and Alex with a second. Alex,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
Bruce,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So the resolution, so it's passed. And as far as the wedding reception, or Aaron, would you rather talk about this on the next meeting?
yes, yep. I'll bring that back to you
Sounds good.
for next time with some recommendations.
Okay. So then we move from there to the CPA presentation.
Yes, and just to be respectful of Samantha Giffin's time, I'm gonna pull her in first and let her start. So these
Great.
are the presentations that were done for the CPA committee for the planning department, or for, excuse me, for the conservation department.
Excellent. Welcome, Samantha. And if you all, the rest of us can mute ourselves when we're not speaking and just make a habit of being muted when other people are speaking, that'd be great. Thank you.
Awesome. Let me share my screen and get this. Actually. Okay. Well, thank you all for having me. I know Dave or Erin probably let you know that we submitted requests to the CPA committee for signage for recreation areas and conservation areas. So this is the presentation that I presented at that meeting. And I think they'll be making some funding decisions this week or early in the new year. But this is a project that we proposed. So just an overview, we requested $100,000 for funding. I know the CPA committee is currently going back and forth about adjusting that slightly. But really the purpose of this project or initiative is to support the actual creation of signs and kiosks at all of the town's recreation and conservation areas, hoping that the updated signage will mirror consistency and branding of the downtown wayfinding that many people have become familiar with. And also the signage will include, street wayfinding, arrival signs, trail markers, trail maps, and kiosk signs. So really uplifting the branding of the town and all of our conservation and recreation areas. Just to recap, I'm sure many of you know, but we have, approximately 2,400 acres and 140 miles of trails on our conservation areas in town, as well as many beloved recreation areas, Cherry Hill Golf Course, Community Field, Cowfield, the Amherst Dog Park, Groff Park, Kendrick, all of these that many use throughout the year. This just kind of an overview to set the scene of what we're talking about. And the rest of the presentation is really a lot of visuals to kind of, again, portray the CPA committee reasoning for this funding. And so the pictures on this slide are current signage that we pulled from a few existing conservation areas or recreation areas, really just to demonstrate how a lot of them are old or falling apart or vandalized or just non-existent in some places as well. There's also a clear lack of consistency. A lot of people who are visiting town may not realize that these are all owned by the town because there's no marker of that being our land, and therefore they wouldn't know who to contact if an issue comes up or anything like that. So it causes confusion for users. And some of our areas, like our kiosks, do not meet ADA requirements. So we definitely want to prioritize that, especially as the town is looking to implement a lot more ADA accessible trails at some of our parks. And then the hope for the new signage is that it is consistent style and branding similar to what exists downtown, such as this sign that we have at Kendrick Park downtown. This will include street wayfinding, arrival signs, and trail markers. So really hoping that most of our areas have some sort of sign like the one at Kendrick or like this sample of Mill River at all of our parks that have our town branding and really designate what the area is. So that way it identifies town land and resources as well as parking. We'll be adding some parking symbols for those that have parking at different trailheads. I'm new to the area, and so they gave me a tour through town, and while we were driving, there were stretches of land that he pointed out, like the town owns that's conservation land, but there was no signage, so people didn't know that it was our land or that it was conservation land. So I definitely think this would address that as well. And the final piece with this is new kiosks. So we do have kiosks at a lot of our conservation and recreation areas. Some of them are outdated or don't have information on them. So we're working with our designer to actually create a standard design for a lot of these kiosks that will include a trail map that's pretty simple for people to follow, as well as some like narrative about the property or acknowledgements. We know a lot of our areas were either donated or different trails were developed thanks to funding from different town committees or grants throughout the area. And so it would also have rules and regulations, which I know different groups have been working on standardizing those rules and regulations for different areas. So that way we can have those listed as well. In addition to contact information, again, examples of people wanting to rent different areas like Puffers for a wedding, they know who to contact, or have questions or see something wrong, they can reach out to our conservation team about getting a tree that fell removed from a trail or anything like that. They know who to contact. And the hope is that we will also have this information online. So any trail maps or narratives that we develop through this process will also live online. So folks looking to visit can see that information in advance as well. Here are some designs that are kind of in progress. Again, we're working with a designer right now to help us figure out the style that we want to go with. But you can see we kind of have a style that we're going with right now of this maroon color that the town has, and figuring out which signage works best for which areas, which types of signs. And yeah, just in conclusion, so really our goals are to create these signs for awareness and accessibility, branding, consistency, really just marking the history of some of the areas, as well as just identification that these places exist in town and who owns them, that they're conservation land, etc. So right now we are working with a designer, hoping designs are completed in spring 2024 for some of the conservation and or recreation areas, and then we'll get the signs fabricated during the summer of 2025, pending CPA committees funding, and then hoping for signs to begin being installed in the fall of 2025. And we know that this will be a long process, since we do have so many conservation areas and really popular recreation areas that require a lot of different facets that we're working through. Yeah, so that was quick because, again, I know you guys have a lot to go through, but just wanted to show you some visuals of things to look forward to.
Thanks, Samantha. Really appreciate it. That's really good that you guys are putting up the signs. Where's the funding coming from?
So we have a request into the Community Preservation Act Committee for $100,000. And so they're making decisions either tomorrow night or in early January about how much funding they'll likely recommend for us to be granted, but it wouldn't be available until summer for us to actually start fabricating the signs. But we are currently working with a designer through ARPA funding, contract using ARPA funding for the design process.
Through ARPA, huh?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Okay, good. We'd been talking about some possible signage for mountain biking, and I just made the suggestion. I figured I'd pass it to you too. International Mountain Biking Association has these triangles, rules of the road type thing, where essentially on each point of the triangle it has walkers, horse riders, and mountain bikers, and it shows who yields to whom. And that's a really simple and informative sign that is possible you could get grants to or get some signage from them. Just something for the future, kind of little seed in the head, so to speak.
Yeah, no, that's good to know. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Aaron?
Okay, so I'm gonna go really quickly through the second CPA request. So this is for passive recreational improvements on Town of Amherst conservation lands, primarily trail and footbridge improvements. So our goals are obviously to improve conservation land, also improve signage, invites more passive use, make these areas safer and more accessible to all users, including people with mobility issues, correct historic problems. This is something we've been working on quite a bit recently, addressing previously filled wetlands, removing undersized culverts, replacing footbridges that are old and needing to be replaced or redesigned to adequately meet stream crossing standards, and then adding structures where existing trail goes through wetlands and is causing damage. And typically to implement these types of projects, we would apply for grants, matching funds, and foster relationships with partner organizations. The process is pretty involved and involves, getting a survey. We have to go through the same process any applicant does with finding funding sources, getting the survey completed, doing the wetland delineation, design and permitting, figuring out, the construction process, whether we go out to bid or do it internally. And then we try to match whatever project we're working on, providing as much in-kind services from the town as possible to make projects happen. And the CPA dollars that we request really go to a lot of the brick and mortar process. So like materials that go into these projects. And, I'm just highlighting a couple of projects in town. So this is Larch Hill, and these boardwalks have been in place for quite a while, several decades. And from the photos, at first glance, they might look okay, but if you walk on these, it shifts when you're walking on it, it creaks. You can see the structural supports underneath the structure are cracking. And there's boards that have rotted out that have been replaced. So, this is a structure that we really need to try to prioritize in the coming years. And then also there's a lot of bog bridging on that site that is starting to sink. These are 3 trails at Hickory Ridge, or excuse me, 3 bridges at Hickory Ridge. One of them, the one all the way to the left, has been stripped. It was completely unsafe, and so we're going to be hopefully redecking that in the near future. But the one in the center is the connector over to West Street, which has some improvements that need to be made for handicap accessibility. And then the one all the way to the right, this is the westernmost bridge, and you can see that it really needs some attention. A couple photos of our bridges at Wentworth Farm. And again, at first glance, they look like they're in decent condition, but particularly the bridge on the left, the reason that there's plywood over the decking is because the decking was rotted out and there was holes in it and there was concern people were going to get injured. Also Jump Bridge, this is the bridge off sort of Kiwanis Field on Stanley Street. That folks have vandalized it and removed boards, and yeah, there's some offensive graffiti on there, and also, some of the boards are starting to rot, so we'll need to do maintenance on that soon. This is a project that's really high on my priority list. It's an old farm road. This is a pretty significant perennial stream that's going through, I want to say, maybe 24-inch culvert. You can see it on the photo all the way to the left. It's dammed up on either side. It's completely insufficient. It's totally failed, and the trail's in really bad shape. So we're hopeful that will get pulled out, and we'll put in a adequately sized vehicle maintenance bridge in this location, and also do some trail improvements. And this is at the Hodick property in North Amherst. So to the left, this is a bridge at Cushman Brook Conservation Area. Again, just shows generally what some of the condition of some of the bridges are. And then on the right, this is a final piece of our Sweet Alice Conservation Area project that we permitted back in 2022, I believe, or maybe it was even before that. But we completed most of it except for this last piece. And so we'd like to wrap this one up. These are some photos of our accomplishments in the last year. These are the new bridges that were constructed at the Hickory Ridge, former Hickory Ridge Golf Course. And Yeah, they're just absolutely beautiful. The one that's in the top left was a wetland restoration project. And the other two were locations where culverts were pulled. In total, we propose to pull 9 culverts. We've pulled 7 so far. It's really incredible restoration that's taking place over there. And I'll add the restoration makes the trails possible from a permitting standpoint. These are also some other examples of past projects. Sweet Alice on the left, bottom center is Casey Trail, and then the ones on the right-hand side are all Robert Frost Trail bridges that were constructed in the last year or so. We'll have a big project coming up on Puffers Pond. Hopefully soon. We have a grant to repair the dam and dike, and we're hoping that along with that, we're going to be able to address some of the infrastructure issues at Puffers and some of the water quality issues at Puffers, but some of that includes handicap accessible platforms, walkways, trails. So these are my little conservation assistants who thank you for thank the town for their funding they provided towards trails. And that's all I have for you.
Wonderful. It looks like you got great help there.
I do.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks. Are there any questions or comments briefly? Rachel?
I'll say the signage looks great. The graphics are clear, and I think it's gonna be really helpful for wayfinding in town. So thank you to your team for that. And then awesome to see what you guys are talking about with infrastructure. So I was in Wentworth Farm the other day. I was like, oh, how much longer before my foot goes through this bridge? Question, and maybe you guys are already thinking about this, but I wonder if there could be a grant, if not, to help you study the linear foot of infrastructure that we have and sort of its lifespan, and if there could be an ongoing fund in the town budget that sort of chips away at that, because it seems like we have data now to know when things were built and how long they've lasted, and they're sort of in wet environments, so they tend to degrade faster. So kind of planning ahead for that maintenance might be a good thing. That's all, but thank you.
Great thinking. Thanks. Alex?
Samantha, you mentioned that you're new to the area. So first, I want to say welcome.
Thank you.
The valley is a wonderful place to live. It's and you talked as though you live in Amherst. I don't sure about that, but wherever you might live, enjoy. It's just terrific. I've been here since '92, and it's just I can't say it again, but it's just terrific. So welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for your presentation. It was very clear, and we'll look forward to more. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. If we don't have any more comments, which I don't see any more hands up, let me take a look at the public real quick. No hands up there. Okay, well, if there's no more on the CPA presentation, land management updates, please. Aaron, are you going to start that off, or is this for Alex to start?
Yeah, if Alex could give an update on the land management subcommittee, that'd be great.
So we have a meeting yesterday of the land use subcommittee, and we went through the rules which the commission approved. I think it was December 3. And we had several revisions that we wanted to propose to the rules which the commission has already approved. And we have a document which perhaps Aaron could bring up. And this would be, let's see, I was there, Andre was there, Bruce was there. So this is pretty much for, and Rachel was there. So Jason, this is pretty much for you. And I'd be happy to go through the documents. I'm not going to go through everything that the commission approved on December 3. what we're gonna do is go through the yellow highlighted areas, which are new text, and then ask for a vote to approve them. So Aaron, are you able to bring that document up? We have some language at the top. If you could increase the screen, it describes what's in this document. And I'm sorry you're seeing my forehead, but I have to get close to my monitor to read. So on December 3, the commission voted to approve all the rules that are presented here except 23 for hunting. On December 17, that was yesterday, the subcommittee approved changes shown here to 15, which is mountain bikes and horses, 17E, which is dogs, and 29 trails, which is new. And they're either yellow highlighted if they're proposed, or crossed out if we're deleting them. So if we could just go down to the first yellow highlighted text. And Jason, what you're seeing is everything that was approved on December 3, and we have a cross out here and a new version of mountain bikes. So if Aaron could blow that up just a little bit, I'd be happy to go through it. Is it easier if I go through it? Yes. So the top part, you'll notice number 15 is listed twice. The black and white, which is crossed out, is what was approved. Number 15, which is yellow highlighted, is what we approved yesterday, and it says essentially the same thing that the commission approved, except we embellished it a bit. So mountain bikers and horseback riders use conservation land at their own risk. That was said before. All trails are open to horseback riding and mountain biking. That was said before. And the commission said that it reserved the opportunity to restrict either restrict the use of certain trails or just disallow use if it becomes advisable to avoid excessive wear and erosion. And that's previous language, a little different, but it's essentially previous language. Horse waste must be removed from the trail and not into the waterway, a wetland or water body. And that was language that was approved. I yellow highlighted them because they're structurally listed differently. It's ABC instead of one big paragraph. And then we get into organized events and camps, and they need commission approval. That's previous language. What's new comes up now, and that is that modifying trails to enhance mountain biking and horseback riding experiences prohibited. So we don't want people changing the trails to enhance their use, such as jumps and things of that sort. Then mountain bikers must travel at a safe speed and control and not jeopardize others. That's new. And then the commission encourages mountain bikers to practice the trail etiquette of yielding to others. And the common courtesy for bikers is the following 4 items, which, as Andre pointed out, comes from a mountain biking organization. And Rachel suggested it in a memo that we included, which we did. And those are the changes for mountain biking that we're asking for approval of. Any questions before we move on? Anything above dogs D? I don't think so. So dogs D. This was not approved by the subcommittee, but when I was putting this together yesterday after the subcommittee meeting, I had always thought that when I wrote D, that a month was a little strenuous, a little harsh, and that I wished I had put in a week. That includes a weekend and would get the point across if people are making a mess out there. So that was not approved by the subcommittee, and I'm suggesting it here. We can put it aside if procedurally that's better, but I thought I'd just bring it up. E is got some work. So the black and white language was approved that off-leash training is not permitted on conservation land except during off-leash hours at locations designated above, and those are Mill River and Amethyst Brook. What we added here is that the commission may make exceptions for training dogs for search and rescue and upland bird hunting and retrieving without the use of birds, and that off-leash training for upland bird hunting and retrieving shall not take place during the shotgun or primitive firearms deer seasons or the ground nesting season for birds, which is May 1 through July 31st. That's new, and we're asking for approval on that. Any questions so far?
Yes, I have a question on the MTB mountain bike item D there, where you had corrected it to 1 week. You just passed it. Come down further. There.
That's dogs.
Item
That's
D.
not-
I'm sorry.
D is
Oh,
dog.
sorry. Okay. Yeah, I actually meant dog waste. I was wrong. Under item D, I could suggest that that we just leave it up to 1 month, allowing the flexibility of the commission to determine the amount of time. Otherwise, 1 week is good too. But that's
Otherwise, what? I didn't catch it, Andre.
otherwise 1 week is fine as well. But if you put up to 1 month, then just meaning leave it up to 1 month, then we would have flexibility to determine whether it needs longer cleanup or not. But I'll hand it back to you.
Well, I'll just ask for discussion on that point.
Rachel?
Yeah, who decides to close the trail and then who decides to open the trail? Is that the town department, or is that the commission?
It's not stated, but I think it was implied that it would be the department since they are in the business of administration.
Okay, so then we'd have flexibility with timing. I just was wondering if there'd be a restriction if the commission was involved.
Yeah, Dave said he would go on leave when that happened, so I don't want him to disappear for a month.
Okay,
Well, let's keep it at a week then. All right, Bruce?
You're on mute, Bruce.
Nothing, nothing.
All right, Jason, are you all set?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think that leaving it to state up to 1 month is good and that it gives flexibility, but I'm also fine either way. The reality of the situation is who's gonna actually enforce this?
It would be the town, and actually in the subcommittee when we were talking about it, not talking about a month versus a week, we were talking about the idea of closure. Dave said it would be very simple. In the case of Amethyst Brook, you just close the parking lot.
Yeah, sure. And people just park on the street and walk across the street.
That's tough.
No, there's a street directly across from the parking lot. There's a crosswalk there.
Yeah, but anyway, that was his plan, was to close the parking lot. We didn't talk about how to close Mill River because there's so much other stuff goes on.
All right. Is this something that we need to determine right now?
I'd like to either leave it the way it was and forget about the suggestion,
Hmm.
because that's what you approved, the commission approved, or make a decision one way or the other and approve that. But and either one's fine with me.
Okay,
But
can we
but
try?
to say for a period of 1 month gives no flexibility.
All right, quick show of hands, who would be comfortable with up to 1 month?
Hold on, I think Bruce had a
Oh,
comment.
Bruce, go ahead, man.
It's the same. Go ahead, Andre.
Okay, just wondering, put your hand up if you would be okay with up to 1 month. Okay, looks like we're good, and Bruce's hand is up as well, if that's what you intended.
My video is not working, so I'm going to have to use this mechanism.
Sounds great. Okay, so if you want to just put it in up to 1 month, that then allows the administration to make a determination of what they want to do.
Aaron, you want to make that change, or I can make it change afterwards, but I'd actually rather have you do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do all of this right now because I've got multiple screens open with documents I'm sharing, so I
Well,
can't save it.
With your permission, everybody, Andre, everybody, if you'll trust me to make the change that we just agreed to, I'll do it.
Certainly. So, okay, next item that you wanted to.
Yeah, this below dogs, hold on just a second, Aaron. Below dog E in dog F, the crossout was there when the commission voted. So there's no change. It just never got deleted. Next.
I'm sorry, so F needs to be deleted?
In F, the comment says that the crossout was present when the commission approved all this. It's not a new crossout.
Okay, so is F, dogs are not permitted to search for, chase, retrieve, or injure birds or other wildlife? Is that to remain in there?
Yeah,
I would recommend putting the sentence except for individuals engaged in legal hunting as per legal hunting, because if people are hunting, then they're using dogs to chase, retrieve, and injure birds or wildlife.
I could live with that.
Yeah. Okay. Next.
Sorry, just for clarification,
Jason?
you're just gonna uncross that. You're just gonna remove the crossed out strike through, because that's what that sentence says.
That's what I understood Andre was saying, essentially.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even see that crossed out portion.
Yeah, all right.
It makes sense.
And
Yeah, I
since
mean,
Aaron's got multiple screens, again, if you would trust me to make that change, I will.
certainly, and you can check back with me if you want some further assistance on the wording. Since I've dealt with
Yeah. Okay, so now I think this is the last item in this, and this is new. And this came about yesterday. And this is language that I wrote based on what was agreed upon. And I have to get pretty close so you're seeing the top of my head. I'm going to turn my camera off so that you're not blinded by the shine. Making new trails, side trails, and interconnections, and modifying existing trails, including the bed of the trail, leaf blowing, and alteration of vegetation are prohibited. Bruce was there, Rachel was there, Andre was there, Aaron was there, and if they think that I captured what was intended, that's all based on my notes.
To me, it looks like that's what we had been talking about. Anybody else?
Agreed.
Rachel?
Yeah, I wonder if it could be a little, could we wordsmith it a little bit? Alex, if you're okay with that?
That's
does-
that's what this process is all about. This is the commission.
Yeah, I think for me, it would be clear to say making new trails and modifying existing trails are prohibited, period. And to say something like, this includes the creation of side trails, interconnections, and everything else that you said. So,
Yeah, do me a favor, so I get it right.
I can email you,
You send an email,
okay,
in a correct way to me so that I get the words correct,
okay,
and I'll put them in.
great.
So with that, I would ask if somebody has a motion to approve what we put in front of you to modify the policies.
One more thing, Alex, there is a typo. Do you want me to email you about that, or do we need to talk about that here? It's just like a spelling of a word.
If it's embarrassing, write it to me.
Okay, I'll write it to you. Okay,
All right.
So looking for a motion to approve the changes or approve the document with the changes?
You've already approved the document. It's the changes that that I'm looking for an approval on, but I'll ask Erin what she thinks is appropriate for wording.
Yeah, Erin's got her hand up as well.
Sorry, I was just gonna say when we have less than a quorum of commissioners with their cameras on, it gives the appearance to the public that we don't have a quorum. They can't see us unless our camera's on, so I was hoping Alex could turn it. Thank you. I know Bruce can't because he's having technical difficulties, but thank you. And I'm sorry, I was distracted with that question. Was there a question for me in there?
Yeah, do we need to, since the document has already been approved, are we just approving the changes that we just discussed to the document, or are we
Yeah.
approving the document as a whole again?
Yeah, I think you can just
No, we don't want
approve
to
the document with the
again.
noted modifications.
Yeah,
We want to
so
approve
we're,
modifications.
yeah,
Alright.
exactly. We're looking for a motion for approval of the document that was approved previously, but with changes discussed just now.
So moved.
I second.
Okay, so we have a motion brought forth by Jason and seconded by Rachel. Rachel,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
Bruce,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
and I'm an aye.
So I'm gonna put my hand up. There we go.
So go ahead.
Erin, now that we've done that, I will start to put together all these changes in a document for you, so that the policy will be a draft policy with all the current changes.
Okay.
And I've been in the agenda for the subcommittee, I've been writing which ones have been approved, which ones are in front of the commission, so on and so forth. And you and I think both have copies of what's been approved, so I'll start putting that together, but it won't be before Christmas. There's one other item, Andre, on the subcommittee. The end of December is the end of our charter, and we did not complete our work. We need to go past the end of December into 2025. We have, excluding hunting, if that gets discussed anymore, we have probably 3 or 4 items which are not sticky, but just need to get processed. And so we're probably talking about a couple of months.
Could you tell me what these items are, Alex?
Yeah, one is, this is gonna be from memory, community gardens, forest management, Bird banding would be a new one. Beavers. I said this is from memory, but I think that's about it.
Okay. Aaron, you got your hand up?
Yeah, we were supposed to start public hearings at 7:30. I wasn't anticipating that this discussion would take as long as it has. Could we just, this is just respectfully, if we could, because there's quite a few people here to present their projects, if we could move into hearings and then come back to this afterwards, maybe, just to make sure that people can get their hearings taken care of.
We could,
Yeah, that makes sense. We didn't talk about hunting yet, and I think that's an important one, and I see some folks in the public who are looking to talk about it as well. I'm pretty sure because I recognize at least one name from the correspondence. So why don't we go ahead into the hearings? Is there a time when we're going to be talking about the hunting that we can?
was
can
not on my
let us
list.
know, or what kind of timing are we looking at?
Was not on my list.
Wasn't on your list. Last meeting, we agreed that we would be talking about it on this meeting.
Don't recall that.
We put it off until.
I think we need to, at least need to talk about the process for working on hunting.
Yeah, because I mean, I'll say as well, I requested that a state biologist expert come and talk to everybody about hunting when we were going to be closing it to the public, hunting. And they hadn't even been spoken to. Let's do a little bit of this conversation after we have our hearings.
Okay.
But I don't think that we're gonna just throw that off to the side until after all these folks have come here, or at least, and I'm ready to talk about it as well. This was an item that I had requested be put on the agenda and was not put on. So it should be on. Let's go ahead with the hearings. So just a quick update or a quick notice for all on these hearings. The general procedure is that each hearing gets about 20 minutes on the agenda, 5 minutes for comment, for staff comment, 5 for the applicants, and 5 for public comment, or 2 per person. Please, you'll need to keep it to that kind of timing, as well as be respectful of everybody. 5 minutes after that for the conservation commissions. All documents that are going to be used for these hearings need to be submitted by the Wednesday of the week prior to our meetings. So a week, they need to be submitted by close of business a week before our meeting. And again, when you go to present, state your name, address of the project, and who you're representing. For the public, just state your name, address, and your preferred pronouns. You can see the Robert's Rules of Orders, but essentially you're talking to the chair. You're not questioning other folks from the who are in the meeting, and you just be respectful of each other and no cutting anybody off. With that, we're going to run up to our first meeting, our first hearing. This public hearing is now called to order. This hearing is being held as required by the provisions of Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth, an act relative to the protection of wetlands, as most recently amended, and Article 3.31, wetlands protection under the Town of Amherst General Bylaws. We have a notice of intent from Berkshire Design Group on behalf of Wild Onion Rentals for the conversion of a single-family home to a duplex, if you would, 2-story addition. And to introduce that, Aaron's going to start off, but I see that Rachel has a question. Rachel?
I have to recuse myself from this particular hearing. Just want to let you know.
All right, thank you, Rachel. So what we're left with is a narrow quorum of 4. Go ahead, Aaron. Did you want to just give a quick explanation and then bring them in?
Yes, bear with me 1 second. Just opening documents. Mike. Sorry, lots of mics. Oh. I see Mike Liu from Berkshire Design Group. If there's anybody else on this project that wants to be pulled in, please raise your hands. And Mike, I'll do a quick synopsis of my comments and then we'll turn it over to you. So there was a memo which I sent out to everyone earlier today, and there was just a couple comments on there. So I did observe that there was a swale between 186 and 194 College Street, which wasn't delineated. I did take a look at it and it did contain some hydric soil. So I do want to speak to the person who did the delineation just to clarify the rationale for it not being mapped as a resource area, which, you know, I just want to make sure I hear from them and understand what their rationale was before we move forward on any kind of determination on that. But I do understand that this area was delineated prior to the drought declaration. So just to put that out there to everyone. In the application, there was no accounting for the existing alteration within the 100-foot buffer zone, and also the numbers for the proposed alteration weren't included. So I asked for an accounting of those, as well as the total buffer zone area on the site. And Mike already did respond with those later this afternoon. So some of these have already been taken care of, but there's a mitigation area shown on the site within the existing vegetated buffer zone, and I was curious why that area was proposed to be the mitigation area, and was curious about any deficiencies in that area that designated it as being located there. Also, I was curious about tree clearing or removal of native vegetation to install the mitigation area. Provided the standard Conservation Commission O&M log, as well as requested a stormwater operation maintenance plan that would be associated with the overall stormwater operation maintenance plan, so that the log and the map correlate with one another for people doing maintenance. There was a vegetated filter strip and an infiltration basin noted in the TSS worksheets, but I was unable to locate it in the plan set. So I'd like to make sure those are clearly labeled and identified on the plans, and so I can identify where they're located. It wasn't specified what equipment would be doing the street sweeping on the proposed pervious pavements. There wasn't erosion controls proposed on the side of the house where the swale is located currently, and there wasn't a clear limit of work on that side of the house, and I was just concerned about the limit of work extending beyond the property boundaries, so I wanted some clarification on that. I would like to get quantification of the number of trees that are proposed to be removed in the buffer zone as part of the plan. And also wondering if we can get some vegetation replanted in that area along the property line in the buffer zone. The proposed mitigation seems small and the number of plantings seemed high, so I'm not a landscape architect, so I was just curious to get a second opinion on that from anybody who might have some insight. And then I noticed that there had been quite a bit of leaf material that had been leaf blown into the buffer zone right up against the wetland boundary, and want to make sure that we designate a compost area in the future for leaf blowing, because that's where the proposed mitigation zone is shown. And that's about all of my comments.
Thanks, Aaron. Mr. Liu, why don't you go ahead and give your presentation if that's what you were going to do? It does seem like you have a good bit of work to do.
Sure. Yeah.
To make
Yep.
any decisions.
I have a little color plan if you allow me to share. Let's see.
You should be able to share.
Okay. So let me see. I'm gonna try to. All right. Anyway, this is a really simplistic diagram, and I realize some of the light green didn't come out, but basically just to orient you, College Street is down here on the south. The wetlands are actually off-site to the north on a separate parcel, and the 50-foot line is right here, this light line that crosses west to east, and the 100-foot buffer line is here. So this is the existing house. It pretty much lies just outside the 100-foot buffer. The existing driveway comes in off College Street and kind of comes in like this and angles over into a paved area right here. This block is the addition, the building addition to create the duplex. Excuse me, to create the duplex, and the parking is shown here in gray. This area that's honeycomb hatched represents pervious paving, where the runoff will basically just enter through the pavement. Now, I know some of you might be familiar with this. There are several examples that I can point to. I know that this was done over in the Amherst Research Park. Smith College has done this. And the applicant, Valley Property Management, says that they have a property that used this technique for stormwater in Amherst, and they're accustomed to dealing with the maintenance. So, that was the big thing. Because of the limited size of this site and just the limited areas, excuse me, due to the buffers and so forth, there wasn't any place to put any, like, quote unquote detention. So the detention happens underneath this pervious paving. Where the water enters, it's filtered, and it's actually stored, in the stone base that's underneath. There's storage volume there. So I believe that might be what is kind of referred to in the stormwater modeling as the detention basin, which Aaron questioned. But I want to get back to some of the issues with the plantings and so forth. In existing conditions, I'm going to blow this up a bit. Right now, we got a tree line that kind of arcs through the back of the site here. You can see this kind of bubble, bubble line type. This area currently is existing lawn, which, I've seen chairs out there or what have you. This double line here is the new tree line. In existing conditions, the tree line pretty much goes from this point here and kind of angles down over to here. You can see where the single line starts again. So there's a swath of trees that would have to be taken out to make room for this addition. Within this stand, I looked, and I know there's like a catalpa tree there. And these are not, for the majority, these are younger trees. Like the catalpa's only about 20 feet tall or so. Now that's, not a native of the Northeast. It's more of coastal and central Midwest species. But, whatever, it's colonized here. There's a couple of small oaks. I believe there's some Norway maple saplings in here. And there might even be a sumac. I thought I remembered seeing one. We can try to take an inventory to clarify how many and, what size trees there are. There Obviously, if the commission feels like there should be some mitigation or replacement of that vegetation with other native species, the applicant, I did talk to him earlier, late this afternoon. He's willing to, plant additional shrubs, increase the mitigation area, do what it takes to be able to put this addition in. I will talk about the planting mitigation. It's shown here in this area, which is cross-hatched in green. This block over here that's shown in the woods, it's very light woods. There, if you go there, you'll see some an old rusted clothesline. Underneath there, there's a significant amount of garlic mustard. So that's an invasive, perennial that's unfortunately, taking over a lot of wooded areas where, it's just neglected and it just spreads. That plant is growing all over the place back here, off site to the neighbor's yard and southward into the trees back here. What we're proposing for mitigation, and I can go to the planting plan, is a combination of native shrubs and valuable pollinator perennials that basically would be planted underneath this existing tree line. We've picked species that do well in partial shade. This area is very shady, even though it faces, south. But there are large trees in the woods back here. And as I mentioned, this lawn area is being used by the residents. And I guess what the purpose of this planting location is to create a buffer so that, there is no more, or try to, prevent more infringement into the wooded area, which is, getting close to that 30-foot wetland setback, which would be about right through here. So we're hoping that, well, that's the idea of the planting, the mitigation. It's about 850 square feet, which is the difference between the existing disturbed area in the buffer zone and the new or proposed disturbed area in the buffer zone. I sent these numbers to Aaron earlier. There's currently already 4,482 square feet of disturbance in the 100-foot buffer, which is 58.8% of the total buffer zone area on the parcel. In proposed conditions, we have 5,332 square feet of disturbed area. And Aaron, I should mention that I included that lawn area as part of that. I can take that out of the equation if you would like. But those are the numbers that I have. And that 5,332 square feet of new disturbance is 70%. So the amount of disturbed area is increasing by about 11% on the site, which translates to 800 square feet. And that's where this number came from. So the plantings within this arced zone and this block under the clothesline is 850 square feet. We're proposing to take the rusted pipe out of the ground of the clothesline. And I also wanted to note, see these little two circles here? This is another old clothesline, which is further in. We didn't signify that, that would be to be removed as well, but I think that the applicant would be happy to take those out as well and even provide some ground cover perennial plantings back there. We'll have to find something that would do well in heavier shade. But he's willing to provide more mitigation planting to make up for some of the the lost vegetation that would need to occur here in this area to build the addition. There were several comments, and we need a little bit of time to look into them. So I understand there's a high chance, or it's very likely that you'll want to continue this to a January hearing. And we're open to that, and we'll try to get the information back to Aaron in a timely manner as possible. But if there's any other issues that you want questions about with the grading or the planting, we can go to those drawings and take a look at that if you'd like.
Thanks, Mr. Liu. Yeah, I think we will probably need to go to January at some point, but let's start with some public comment questions, if you don't mind, Jason and Bruce, unless you have a really pressing question. Any members of the public looking to ask a question about 194 College Street? I see no hands. If you do have a question throughout the rest of this hearing, please put your hand up. In the meantime, we're going to go to the commissioners. Jason?
Yeah, thank you, Andre. There's quite a bit of mitigation there in the back. And is there any plan to protect that area? As Aaron mentioned, there's some leaf blowing in there. I drive past that house quite a bit.
Okay.
Generally seems to be occupied by students
Yes.
out drinking in the warm weather and having all kinds of fun as they are want to do. And just any way to protect that, I think would be good, to keep some signage to keep landscapers from going in there and disturbing it, leaf blowing, and to keep occupants of the buildings out of that area.
I'm sure there's something we can come up with, short of a solid like barrier, like a wood guardrail or something. But we could probably, we could maybe suggest putting in some large stones along there also in combination with the plants, so that certainly that vehicles couldn't, go beyond that point. The matter with the leaves, there are leaves that were, seemingly piled up, back here and probably even over the property line. There's also an old basketball hoop that got discarded back here. I don't know the exact location, but I think it's over here, more toward the northwest corner of the parcel. But the applicant's willing to get rid of that stuff, take it out, bring it to the landfill, whatever's necessary. The leaves, if you want those cleaned up, I know that there is, I think right about in here seems to be, I'm going to say, the deepest pile of leaves. You don't really see them. It's not like a mound, but they have been raked or blown back there, and they seem to be matted down. On a tight site like this, I don't, there's not really a place to do composting, unless they use some of that lawn area. But when I talked to the applicant late this afternoon, he said that they'd be willing to bag up leaves and take them off site. That's what they've had to do on other tight sites, where there's just, not room to, put out piles of branches and leaves and so forth. So he is willing to do that. If that is part of a condition of approval. Valley Property Management, I know that they take care of not only this client, this owner, but several other properties in town. It seems to me that they are pretty good steward of the land. They generally take good care of their properties. I mean, given that these are rentals, there's always something that needs fixing. They've been pretty responsive about attending to those issues when called upon. So I think that with the leaves, if they have to, they said that they're willing to, blow them together and get them in bags and just, basically haul them off site to the landfill.
All right.
One thing I forgot to talk about was that swale. And I apologize. It's over here along the western property line. And we are proposing to enlarge the swale, and the reason for that is to use it for some stormwater. Water seems to infiltrate that soil there rather quickly. There was no sign of standing water any time that I was there, over the course of, visiting the site, meeting with the client and so forth. The Ward Smith, who did the delineation, talked about this swale specifically and said there was some wetland vegetation in the swale, but there was no evidence of standing water. And I don't remember if he actually mentioned hydric soils, but I think that I've given him the heads up that Aaron wants to contact him and maybe talk to him. I don't know if a site meeting or whatever is needed, but he'll be looking at that again with Aaron. But the swale is to remain. A lot of it is, just off of the property line. The property line doesn't go through exactly the center of the swale. The center of the swale is, is westerly to the property line.
Okay, I think we'll move to the next questions. I think we're going to have an opportunity to talk to you again next month.
Sure.
So I don't want to hold us up on any few questions. Aaron did have a question there, and Bruce had his hand up as well. Aaron, why don't you go ahead and then I'll revisit with Bruce here in a minute.
Okay. So a couple things. You know, Jason asked about how to protect the mitigation area, and I think we kind of got off course a little bit. You know, I think like a split rail fence would be a good idea. I don't think stones are going to really do much in an area where, you know, there's potential for people to be. I think a split rail fence would provide a good demarcation. So that's just a thought. I also like would prefer not to see the leaves taken off site. Like one of the things we're seeing with ecosystem impacts is, you know, blowing all the leaves, taking them off site, and all the insects that reside in the leaves are basically destroyed. And you know, I think that there could be a path put through the mitigation area where we have just a designated location to store leaves on site that wouldn't provide too much impact to the overall project. Relative to the stormwater swale, I mean, I know that we need some clarification on that, but I did just want to make a couple quick points because it's really important for the project. Just in general, for stormwater management, under state stormwater management standards and also under our local wetlands bylaw regarding water, you cannot put stormwater from your property onto a neighboring property. And I feel like this swale kind of straddles the property line, and I'm a little concerned that you're utilizing a stormwater structure that's partially on the neighboring property, and I question the legality of that. So I bring that up because, you know, I think that that's a critical issue with this plan, and it was kind of unclear to me that that was part of the stormwater management because it wasn't really clearly identified, I feel like, on the plans, and I would have definitely called that out. The other thing I just wanted to mention, when this application came in, it was this current house was described as a single family home. Like all of the narrative of the application describes this is a conversion of a single family home to a duplex. When we were out on the site, it was clear that this property is already a multifamily. So I don't know if there's already a duplex here, and then we're adding an additional unit. It's unclear to me whether the units are being reduced. If we're adding a unit, if we're going to have 3 units, then at 3 units and over, it requires stormwater management. I know you've already accounted for stormwater management on the plan, but just in terms of me taking, if this is 3 units or more, I'm going to be scrutinizing the stormwater management plan to make sure that you're meeting those TSS removal requirements, and also that your BMPs are meeting the state BMP manual requirements for design and functionality. So just wanted to put that out there that however this is being designed, it really needs to kind of conform with a standard. So just wanted to state those things, but I don't expect a long response on that, Mike, right now. I'm just putting that out there for just general commentary, because those issues didn't really get covered in my comment.
Okay. My understanding is that the existing house is 1 unit. There are 4 renters, and so the back addition is the 2nd unit. That's how
Mike's Mr. St. Hilaire, who was out on the site, said it was a duplex to me when we were out on the site visit with Bruce. He said it was
that
an
the existing
duplex.
house is a duplex?
That's what Bruce and I were told when we were at the site visit.
Okay. I'll clarify with him. Maybe he misunderstood. Maybe he was talking about the entire the build out condition.
Did I lose you?
You're muted, Andre, just so you know. I think you were talking.
I was talking. I'm sorry you didn't hear me. I had a lot of really important things to say, and now I don't know what I said. No, I think I think we can cover further questions after Bruce in the future, the next meeting. I was actually curious, what you mentioned that currently there's a certain amount of disturbance that you said was around 70% or so. I didn't get the amount.
Yeah, in existing conditions, I mentioned that what I was calling the existing disturbance from, within the buffer zone. This is the
Mhm.
100 buffer zone back, and I included the existing lawn area as well. It was 58.8% of the buffer zone area, and then in the new condition, it increased to 70%.
And so what is the current disturbance? What kind of disturbance is there? Are you talking about building disturbance or what?
Yeah, the existing parking lot, which is here, and there's an existing bump out, if you will, on the back, and
Okay.
some wood stairs that go down from an exit and so forth. There's some additional structure back here, plus the parking lot, plus this
Got it.
lawn area.
Got it.
And in the
Okay.
new condition, I was counting, the shifting of the parking lot, the building addition, and the lawn area as well.
Okay. All right. I just needed that clarification,
Sure.
what you meant by the disturbance. Bruce?
In an effort to keep this at the policy level, assuming that we're willing to have the pervious parking lot be a form of detention, I think a lot more needs to be done and said about the maintenance. I have some experience with this, and if it isn't significantly maintained with vacuuming quarterly, if not more, then you lose increasingly, you lose the detention value. And if we're talking about something that's going to last for 20 years, how can we be assured that this maintenance will occur?
I honestly, the only answer I can give you is that, even if you make it a condition, you're leaving it up to the property manager, and maybe the only way to require it or to make sure that it gets done is to have some kind of report submitted, that they're doing it, twice annually or something, whatever it needs. Now, I know that when I talked to him, I was telling him we might not be able to do this project because there's no room for stormwater unless we do pervious paving. And he said he was familiar with it. We talked about that you can't let leaves just sit there and rot, and the particles break down and get into that strata, the pavement strata, the surface, and that even sanding, he said that they won't use sand in the winter. And you realize that it has to be vacuumed to be cleaned to try to
Excuse my
clear it out
interruption.
as best as possible.
Excuse my interruption. Let's finish that conversation. If you can take that back to to the applicants, and let them know what our concerns are, and perhaps get some more have some more clarification for the next time. I think that would be fairly productive. Jason.
Yeah, along those lines, there is maintenance conversation in the NOI about ponds, infiltration ponds, I think it says. So might understand that that is talking about the storage capacity of the porous paving.
The stone storage layer.
And it appears in the binder that the soils that test pit 2 are hydric soils. I did not necessarily find this information in the NOI binder. Potentially you can point it to us next time. What is the infiltration rate? It seems you're just relying on infiltration and then storage in the stone. But if those soils don't infiltrate well,
right.
there does not appear to be any connection to a storm drain system or any kind of emergency overflow, anything like that, to take care of any water that does not infiltrate.
Right. Okay. I'll just quickly point out we had a test pit done in this area and one back here in the grass. The groundwater was much higher back here, and I guess you'd expect that being closer to the wetland. Down here, this system is designed so that there is 2 foot of clearance to the high groundwater level or elevation. So this does meet the state standards for stormwater system of this kind for a detention basin and to allow for infiltration. The soils are better down here. They're sandier in this area. I can't recite what the test pit logs say. I have to look that up. But our engineer that designed this, made sure that this pervious pavement met all the standards, has the proper elevation. It's even built up a little bit in fill, so that we could maintain that 2 foot separation to groundwater, so that this level down at this corner is higher, a little bit higher than existing conditions, and that this portion of the driveway is repaved so that it's steeper, if you will, because right now it pretty much comes in on College Street and it's pretty flat. So I think it's raised up about 8 inches, if my memory serves. So this has been designed so that it should work. In existing conditions, there's no stormwater control. Everything that's not caught in this swale, coming downhill all the way from, is it Railroad Street? I mean, that's a long ways off to the west. That isn't caught in the swale. This whole property currently just drains right over eastward onto, I don't know what number this is, but the neighboring property. And then some of it makes its way back into the woods, and some of it makes its way onto the sidewalk, and then, and gets into the Route 9 drainage system somehow. Probably down here closer to, I can't remember. Maybe I've got my streets wrong. Is that South Whitney? On the east side. So, I mean, there's currently no stormwater controls on the site now. So what we're effectively doing is catching the water in, this area, except for the back portion of this roof, which is going off into the swale, which we'll have to look at that again. But we're, funneling the water or directing it to the pervious pavement where it has a chance to infiltrate. If this thing overflows and can't take any more water, which could happen in a very large storm, it will basically come back up to the surface and go down, toward Route 9 as it did in existing conditions. So it's getting a chance, the runoff is getting a chance to be caught and filtered and put it back into the soil and not just allowed to run overland in an easterly direction.
Thank you. All right, this is the last question, and since we are going to get another shot at this,
Andre, can you see that my hand's up?
I cannot. Bruce's hand was.
No, I withdraw.
All right, I'll pass Bruce's hand to Alex.
Okay, I got a couple of questions. One's for Aaron. Can we have a site visit?
We already had a site visit, but we can have another one.
I didn't see a notice of it, sorry.
Yeah, it was last Thursday, I believe.
I didn't see it. Second, I don't see any screens. I can't see anybody's faces. I don't know if that's my screen or the way it is for everybody else.
It's got to be your screen because I could see everybody.
Okay, and then with regard to the project, I may misunderstand the degree to which disturbance already occurs within the 100-foot buffer.
Mike, could you put the existing conditions plan up? Because we've been looking at the proposed conditions the whole time, and I think seeing the existing would be helpful.
Let's see, maybe I'm gonna, let me go back.
While he's looking,
Okay, that's the survey, if you
Yeah,
will.
you just have to zoom in a little bit because they can't see anything.
Okay, so again, here is the 50-foot wetland. I mean, sorry, this is the 50-foot here. You can see that label, and this is the 100-foot buffer. So a majority of this site parcel is within the 100-foot buffer zone. Within the buffer zone where it's disturbed, there's this pavement here. This is the parking lot. The driveway comes in from College Street here, and this is the parking lot. There's a bump out right there, which would disappear or be rebuilt. There's an overhead, a second story bump out up above. There's these steps that come down, and there's some broken, broken concrete patio here, if you will. So what I was counting as disturbed area was basically, from the 100-foot buffer, I think I counted this, the parking, the paved area, as well as this lawn area, which is maintained and mowed and everything, and then over to the tree line here. So this was the area of existing disturbance. And then if we go to, whoops, this is kind of awkward. If we go to the proposed condition, the parking lot's essentially the same, except it moved over to the east a little bit. It's straightened out, if you will. So the area of disturbance is this plus the lawn, and then this building, the building addition, back to, the 100-foot buffer line here. So that the proposed over the new is 11% more disturbed area.
Okay. Well, given it's still not quite clear, but so we have a impermeable surface in the back, which is a parking lot. But I'll just say that putting a new structure inside the 100-foot buffer, I do not think can be mitigated. And we have buffers for a reason. And we have a 100-foot buffer in which we really don't want structures. So again, I might be confused and I have to talk to Erin about the degree to which this, and I'll talk to her offline, but the degree to which this has already been disturbed. But today, we probably would not approve a parking lot with inside that 100-foot buffer. And I'm a little troubled to recommit that to recommit that parking lot by putting in a structure. So I have a dim view of this project.
Thanks, Alex. I think we've had plenty of discussion today. There's more to discuss and some decisions to make here coming up. Alex, thank you. And with that, I think we are ripe for a motion.
I'll move to continue the public hearing for 194 College Street, DEP file number 089-0746 to January 8, 2025 at 7:30 p.m.
Second.
All right, Jason with motion and Bruce with a second. Jason,
Aye.
Bruce,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
and Rachel, who's you're recused, right? Okay,
Yes.
and an aye. So that's 4 of us. It's approved till next.
Now I can see everybody. I don't know what happened, but now I can see everybody.
All right.
It's because the
good.
applicant was sharing, I think.
All right, so now we're up for our next order of business, which is a notice of intent.
All right.
And
Okay, I just want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you in January.
thank you, Michael.
All right. Have a good
Enjoy
night.
your the end of the year.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
So let's see. We've got hearing number 2 is an amended NOI by Pure Sky for changes to the sequencing of on the order of conditions of the solar facility at 191 West Pomeroy. So, otherwise known as Hickory Ridge. So Aaron, would you like to kick this off?
Sure. So we're still waiting for a response from Natural Heritage. It seems there was some unfortunate communication that they still needed something, I guess, from SWCA, and so they've just now, I guess, today made the applicant aware of that. And so unfortunately, we can't move on this evening until we get the new submitted materials and NHESP signs off. And yeah, there was some commentary there. I was talking today with Lawrence about the comp storage plan. I haven't had a chance to verify what he said, but it sounds like there was already comp storage to accommodate the fill that that would be impacted by the grading changes. So I just have to verify that, but offering the benefit of the doubt that that's accurate, and that we just sort of are waiting on an administrative issue at this point.
All right. Sounds pretty simple. Is there anything else to add to that, Tom?
I guess, Aaron, the only other thing that I would ask is, I know I had sent that email, Lawrence, and Lawrence, maybe if you want to hop in here. He was hoping to be able to start on the eastern side of the western array. I think the order of conditions says start on the western side of the western array, but that we need approval for grading to actually do that. So it would make sense to allow him to start on the eastern side of the western array. And if that would be okay for him to start there, it's not near any resource area, but just to start there until we come back on the 8th. Because as Aaron noted, I mean, we got the email from Misty Ann today saying, essentially, I'm right there with you. Get this from SWCA, and you should have this by your next meeting. I'll paraphrase it. So that's what we would ask for, is to be able to start on the eastern side. And Lawrence, I don't know if you want to put any finer detail on that, or if that's sufficient.
I mean, that's exactly it. I would point out that Misty Ann did respond on the grading, that Natural Heritage take no issue with the grading. The SWCA part is an updated narrative to do with the herbicide treatments that we're also pursuing. So yeah, we're happy to table things till the 8th. We just would like to start on the east side of the west array, not the west side of the east array, so we don't box ourselves in with the grading.
And that's something that wouldn't start until after we meet next time. Is that correct?
We'd like to start now. We've met the requirements for stabilization to be able to start work on the western array, and our preference would be to start on the eastern part of the western array rather than the western part of the western array.
Can I give a little update?
And I think yeah, Aaron, that sounds good, and I'd like to also know how that differs from what you had agreed to earlier. Okay, go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give the commission a little update on where the phasing is at, because I think that this is kind of critical for everybody to understand, given the big picture of the amendment request. So okay, so I'm just gonna paint like the big picture here and try to do it as quickly as possible. So you might recall that some work had started on the western array, and it came up at a commission meeting, and they said, okay, we'll stop on the western array, we're going to move to the eastern array. So they moved back to the eastern array, and they're back sort of in sequence with the phasing. Okay, they've completed about 80% of the eastern array, is my understanding. And I was out there on Friday on a site visit, and there are site visit photos in the project folder, so you can see what things look like. So when I was out there, I did request some additional stabilization. The request was basically they're about 80% done, but they can't complete the eastern array entirely because they need to complete the grading on the eastern array before they can complete it to 100% on the eastern side. So they have, as of yesterday, they had 50% of the eastern array stabilized, and we're very close to 100% stabilized. It was probably, I would guess, maybe 75% if I was to guess, in total, because they had already done some stabilization, but I asked for a little more because there was like some additional areas where it was a little bit of rutting. You can see it in the photos if you look at it. And then there was subsequent emails that addressed the requests that I had when I was out there Friday. So based on that, I said that they're okay to move to the western array because they can't complete the eastern array until the grading is completed. And so as far as I'm concerned, they are in complete compliance on the eastern array at this point in time with the order of conditions. So from my standpoint, it doesn't matter if they start on the eastern array or the western side, excuse me. It doesn't matter if they start on the eastern or western side of the western array. As long as they follow the protocol of having halfway through construction, having an inspection to make sure that the stabilization is being done. And what I did ask of Jake, who's the one of the site supervisors, was this time around, I'd like for them to go stabilize as they go with the straw and the seed so that they're not just waiting until the end to stabilize. Get the seed and straw in as they're moving through the site so that they're not caught in a last minute rush to stabilize before I come out to do the inspection. So they agreed and they would do that. I also asked for some additional stabilization measures, which were to cover an existing soil stockpile that had been from the placement of the posts, to seed and put some straw on that, to do some additional controls around one of the completed stream crossings. I'm trying to remember, there was a couple other little things, but they were going to be working on those this week as well. So the bottom line is I just want to give you guys a little bit of a snapshot of an update. I was out on the site Friday, did request some additional things. They've been working to address those additional things, but I do think the site is in substantial compliance and I have no issue with them moving to the western array however they see fit, as long as they follow the remainder of the phasing.
And if they do that, they're I guess the idea being that they can't be working on both of them at the same time. In a manner that basically is gonna kind of let them lose control of one.
So
Well, I mean,
Yeah, so
I'm simplifying things and
yeah, so if I could just jump in there, I think what I'm hoping to do with the order of conditions is to put some sort of checks and balances when they actually do the grading. My understanding is that when they get to a point where they're, let's say they're 80% on both arrays, and they have, the 80% of each of those arrays substantially stabilized. At that point, they would move to the grading locations to do the final construction of the remaining 20% on each of the arrays. What I'd like to do is have a process built into the order of conditions whereby there's like inspections. So I'm coming out and I'm looking at the areas that they're grading, making sure that there's adequate erosion controls. And it's two-phase, okay? So the stabilization on this, in my opinion, is going to be two-phase in that because it's winter construction and because there's grading, which wasn't anticipated with the original order of conditions, right now they can't do erosion control blankets, for example, because they have vehicles driving up and down the drive aisles and they don't want to be driving over blankets and piercing tires with staples from erosion control blankets. So they're putting down like a thick mat of straw with the seed. And then once they're completely done, then they would do a final stabilization, which in my hope would be like erosion control blankets and seeding, and that would remain in place until the spring when things start to grow. So that's sort of what I envisioned as being built into the overall order of conditions. And hopefully in the end it ends up being a little bit better because those grading areas will be like the remaining 20% of each of the arrays. So we'll just add it in as sort of an additional phase, as well as the areas where the equipment pads are located that they'll want to construct.
okay. All right, is there any other question in the meantime? We have Jason. Your hand's still up, Aaron.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that there's a number of photos in our folders site photos, and the first few, there's a good bit of silt fence that looks like it is not installed properly at all. It doesn't look like it appears to be trenched in. I don't know where that is, but looking at some of the site inspections that were provided, it says that all of the sediment controls are in place, they're installed, and they're in good order. I can tell from those pictures that they're not. So I would like to see those things be repaired. And if we're going to move forward with grading, especially it is winter time, and if a nice thick blanket of straw is put down, that's going to help with erosion. But if you're going to have vehicles driving over top of that straw, it's wet, it's raining right now. There is going to be erosion. There's going to be sediment that is loosened and is going to flow down. I want to make sure that those sediment controls are in good working order, and I would fully support Aaron going out and doing inspections as well.
Thanks, Jason. Aaron has a quick comment.
Yeah, I mean, one additional thing that I was thinking was through the end of the project, or through stabilization essentially, is increasing the frequency of the third-party inspections. And I do agree with you, Jason, looking at the monitoring reports. One of the things I've struggled with on this project is, like, we get a monitoring report, they're submitted to us weekly, and issues are identified. And I say, when I get the monitoring report, hey guys, once the controls are repaired, please let me know immediately so I can come out and take a look. And then the next monitor, I don't hear back. And then the next monitoring report, we get the issue's still there. And so that's something that we do need to hopefully be a little more consistent on the site, that the issues are addressed more expeditiously. But I was out on site, and what I can say is there's one location there. Well, there's really two locations there where the stream crossings are located. And there's no trenched in silt fence in those locations because water is moving through, like there's water's moving through a culvert underneath the road. And so there's like little sections where there's no silt fence. I do agree. I saw that locations where the staples came out and it was sort of starting to sag. This silt fence is thoroughly trenched in. I've inspected it many times. It's very trenched in. Some of the staples do come down periodically, but it's a wire-backed silt fence, so it does have an extra layer of reinforcement behind it.
Thanks, Aaron. Alex.
Yeah. Lawrence, I understand that batteries got taken out of the pad. Is that correct?
The batteries did get taken off the pad, but yeah, from the plans that were approved by the Concom.
Yeah, so the pad will be smaller.
We're not talking about doing the pad yet. That'll be at the next meeting. We're only talking at the moment about whether we can start on the eastern array.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, on the east side of the western array. Everything else we can discuss
Um,
at the next meeting.
I'm
sorry. Yeah, real quick point of order. We're talking about whatever questions we've got right now, Lawrence. And
Okay.
We will address the question that you've come up to us with.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question about that.
Yeah, I mean, our intention was to build the pads as per the approved design, but that part of the discussion is going to be talking about possibly the phasing changes. We are looking at the ways in which we can, because you can't build any of the pad without having conduit underneath it that will come out to serve whatever battery is ultimately approved. So if you're saying that we can't have any conduit on the pad that serves the battery in total, then we can't build any pads until that happens.
All right. Can you just hold off for a second, Lawrence? Larry?
I have a
Alex had a question.
I have a question about the grading. And Aaron may need to, I know we're waiting for Heritage to give us a word, but are they, they're separate geographically, correct? And if grading went on as he's asking for now, it's separate and apart from the sensitive areas. And it is winter and herbicides would be applied now. Is there a possibility that they could move forward? Even though we're scheduled to be talking about this in January?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Is there's a possibility they can move forward with what before January?
He's asking if to move forward with the grading,
No,
and you said you didn't have a problem with that.
No, no.
I
I-
think the
I
grading is
misunderstood.
gonna take place after they do the stabilization, Alex. So the grading is not something they're about to do now. They're gonna do it once all the stabilization has been.
Okay, so when Lawrence was talking, I misunderstood the timing.
Well, and just to clarify, they couldn't do the grading until after they get the approved amended order from the commission because that's not included in the original approval.
Yeah, I just misunderstood when Lawrence was saying we'd like to do this and we'd like to do that. I didn't quite understand if that was a request in front of us, even though it says we're going to continue.
yeah, and also just for a point of clarification, we're not using any herbicides within the solar array. No part of the site that we're working on is getting herbicide treatment. The herbicide is solely for invasive species control under the CMP. It is not. It does not form part of the solar array itself. So
Okay.
there is no herbicide treatment going on at the moment, nor will there be till the spring.
Thanks, Larry. Please wait until I call you next time, okay?
Okay, apologies.
Thank you.
So, Chair, I think I got mixed up in where the proposed motion is to continue. So when Larry was talking about they would like to do this and liking to do that, I thought what he was saying is for us to act on that tonight. And I apparently was, and then Erin was saying she didn't have a problem with that, and I got confused as to timing. That's all.
Thank you. Aaron, what we're gonna do is move this to the next meeting. Is that correct?
Correct. And, as long as the commission's okay, I'm just gonna keep sort of, shepherding along the work while monitoring stabilization measures and making sure that things are staying contained on the site. The only other thing I would add is just to take public comment before we issue a continuation.
Thanks. And Larry, your hand's still up, so why don't you go ahead? Oh, no, not anymore. All right, anyone out of the public have questions regarding the Hickory Ridge project? I'm seeing no hands up. So I'll be looking for a motion. And
I'll do it.
we're looking for a motion to continue the public hearing.
Yeah, Andre, I'll move to continue the public hearing for 181 West Pomeroy Lane, DEP number 089-0728 to January 8, 2025 at 7:35 p.m.
Second.
Okay, there's Jason on the motion, Bruce on a second. Bruce,
Aye.
Alex. You're muted. I'll come back to you, Alex. Rachel
Aye.
and Jason,
Aye.
Alex,
I
and I'm an aye.
was following your order of muting.
Yeah, I mean, if not, then we keep hearing folks in the background. Tom and Larry, thank you very much, and we'll be seeing you next month.
Sounds
in the
good.
new year.
Happy
Enjoy the
holidays,
new
happy
year.
new year.
Thank you.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Do
Merry
you want me to
Christmas,
stick
everyone.
around, Erin? Do you want me to stick around for 422? I don't know when that's on the agenda.
I don't think you need to, Tom, unless you want to, but I think that
No.
will be fine.
Dinner time. This is great.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. See ya.
Okay.
Get into here. With that, we're down to requests for certificate of compliance, minor administrative changes, and then order of conditions, and then we're also going to talk about hunting. Where do we start? Are there folks waiting for us on the certificate of compliance, minor administrative changes, or others?
Yeah, so I'll just, if it's okay, I'm just gonna go in order. So for the request for certificate of compliance, this is a pretty basic question to the commission. This is the project, the former Bertucci's building. It's currently Garcia's restaurant. We did a repaving project there, maybe approximately 2.5, 3 years ago. And there was a restoration of a small intermittent tributary to the Tan Brook that was restored. There was some invasive management that was done there and some plantings. And as part of the, so let me start by saying they've completely complied with the order of conditions, and I've got no objections to issuance of a certificate of compliance. The one issue that did come up on the inspection was the commission required the installation of 3 signs that basically noted protected wetland area for landscapers, et cetera, to not be putting clippings and cutting back there, et cetera. And 2 of the signs were stolen. They provided to me evidence that they had purchased the signs. One of the signs still remains, but 2 of them were taken. And so just seeking guidance from the commission, do you want those stolen signs replaced before considering the issuance of the certificate of compliance, or considering the hardship to the landowner, would you consider issuance without the 2 remaining signs being there?
Alex?
2 points. First, I'd like to see the signs there. Second, that stream runs right behind my house. It runs all the time.
Do we have, Aaron, do we have any photos of the sign? Let me take a quick look here.
Yes, in the request for certificate of compliance folder, there should be.
Share.
Sorry, I've got to work through like 5 screens to get to where I'm going, and it takes me a little time to.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any photos in here, Aaron,
Of the signage.
at all,
Um,
unless I'm missing something.
Sorry, I'm just flipping through to see if I can locate them quickly. Sorry, the photos aren't coming up. Let me see if I can, you want to just see the photo of the one sign? Is that what you're looking to see?
Alex?
Yeah, if with regard to the signs, I haven't seen a picture, but if we're requiring signs, and then the sign should be there, whether they get stolen or not, that becomes part of the responsibility. And you called it an intermittent stream, and when I told you it ran all the time behind my house, yeah, you didn't.
Well,
didn't-
yeah, so technically, according to the regulations, it's an intermittent stream, because at that point in the watershed, it doesn't have a watershed size greater than a 1/2 square mile. So even if it does run year round, there's no regulatory provision for us to determine it to be perennial in that specific location. The Tan Brook becomes perennial at Faring Brook, so anything upstream of that under the regulations is considered to be intermittent.
Okay, thanks for the clarification, but I will tell you, I'm not far from the site where we're talking about, and that stream runs all the time. Okay,
Thanks,
Thank you.
Alex. I have a stream next to my house that's also considered intermittent, and I've never seen it dry.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, you know, I think that there are a lot of because, you know, you can have a spring-fed stream that's not dependent on rainwater for flow. So there are a number that are misdiagnosed, and I don't think the regulations are really adequate to address those situations. But can you guys see the screen with the one sign that's remaining? So there was
Yeah.
3, and there's an invoice in the folder for the signs, for the purchase of the 3 signs, and this is the only one that remains.
Yeah, so I,
Bruce?
I propose we ask them to have at least 2 signs and then and explicit difference.
I agree with that. That's what I was thinking too. Jason?
Yeah, so I was just gonna say that I propose we have them just have the amount of signs. I thought it said 3 signs in the condition. I don't. I just have the 3 signs. That's the condition. That's my proposal.
All right.
We can.
What's the cost on a sign? I did see a receipt in there, but it was a receipt for cleaning out the catch basin.
Let me get back to my email, sorry. Um,
does it matter what chair?
Sorry, I wasn't looking to see your raised hand, but I think it's just something that that I thought mattered, which is why I asked the question. But in the overall scheme of things, it may not. But if it's, you know, overly expensive, maybe it's a good idea to say, okay, fine, just put a second sign there.
Yeah,
So it
I'm not
looks
seeing the prices.
they're about 31 per sign, so all 3 was 94, 92.
Okay. In my opinion, we should revert back to what we requested.
Okay.
30 bucks is not going to put them out of business.
Okay. That's completely fine. I just wanted to get consensus so I could give them some clear guidance and move their certificate forward. So I'll let them know that.
could I just add something?
Sure.
That they provide signs in perpetuity. That if they get knocked down again, they need to put them back up. That little wetland gets abused all the time, and it struggles to stay alive. It needs all the protection it can get. I'd love to see more of it daylighted, but that's probably not going to happen.
Okay. Thanks, Alex. All right. So I think is anyone opposed to us requesting that they go ahead and replace the 2 lost signs, and then we'll be good with the order with the certificate of compliance? Any opposition? I think we have it there.
Okay. Sounds good.
Mm.
So then the next item would be the request for minor administrative changes, and Ted Parker is here on behalf of Concord Way, lot number 6. So I'll invite him in, and I can open up the plans as well, so that we can share them. So I'm just going to go ahead and share the screen so you guys can see what the plan looks like. So this is the existing approved plan. And just to orient the commission to this, and I'll try to zoom in so you guys can see a little better. This is a very long ongoing project. This was the Amherst Hills project. And there was a series of 4 lots, which even though the subdivision had been approved in the early 2000s, these lots had never been developed. So I want to say approximately 4.5, 5 years ago, the commission approved the construction of 4 houses along Concord Way. There was a total of 6 actually, and 2 of the lots were not passed, but 4 of them were, and this was one of them. You can see that there's a vernal pool buffer. That's because there was a vernal pool which was documented after the subdivision had been approved. And then you'll also see a BVW boundary back here, and you'll see buffer zones for BVW as well as for the vernal pool buffer. So this is the plan that the commission approved approximately 4.5 years ago. And you'll see that the erosion and sediment control line, I believe, is up to the 30-foot buffer here, and the 50-foot is here. So there's grading shown up to the 50-foot buffer, and you can see where a patio and a corner of the garage impact the buffer zone. So this is the proposed adjustment to the plan. And you can see that you've got a portion, it's changed the configuration of the house, and you can see a greater portion of the patio and screen porch are now located in the 100-foot buffer. But to a greater degree, there's a much less grading that's taking place here. So just to do it's hard to do a side by side, but you can see there's substantial grading taking place here to bring the lot up to a higher elevation versus on the other site, on the other project, it's a little more limited in terms of where the proposed elevation changes are located. So I think the house is a little more impactful in that just right at the 100-foot buffer line, but the grading is a little less impactful. And so the applicant is asking for an amendment, so to amend the existing order of conditions with the adjusted plan. And when we consider this, our basically typically have to look and say, is there additional resource area alteration that's taking place, and has the plan substantively changed from what had been originally approved? So, I mean, from my perspective as staff, I don't think that this is substantively changing. There's a very small adjustment to the house footprint, and I think there's less grading that's happening, less impacts from grading. So I would not argue that this is a substantive change, but it's up to the commission to decide if it's a minor administrative change or if a formal amendment is required to permit the change to the house footprint.
Okay. All right, so it looks like the majority of what we're talking about in terms of impact is that that about 3/4 of that bump out or whatever, that screen porch, I guess. Is that the extent of the difference? And then if you want to talk possibly mitigating it, would be then the fact that it's not as great, as steeply graded. Is that where we're at? All right.
Correct.
Okay, Jason?
Thank you, Andre.
Can
Aaron.
I stop? Can I just stop you for a second? I'm sorry, Jason. I don't see anyone from the public. After Jason is done, I'm going to recheck with the public and see if there are any folks who need to talk about it. And before that, I'm sorry, I got a little bit confused here. Let's let the applicant have a say as well. I see that we have Ted Parker here. You are muted. You're on mute right now.
I'm Ted Parker, and I represent Tofino Associates, who is the owner of the property currently and the developer of the subdivision. Erin did a very good job summarizing it. I just would add a couple of things. I believe that the original NOI was issued in 2021. The application process took a while, but I think the NOI was actually approved in 2021, was issued in 2021, and then extended in 2023. We did our best to keep the house almost completely out of the buffer zone in both the original plan and the new plan. The original plan had a concrete patio. In the new plan, the patio will be stone. It will be pervious. It will allow water to flow through it. So I think the trade-off between the impervious patio in the original plan and the screen porch in the new plan is about the same. We also lowered the grade of the house by 3 feet so that we would not have to add any fill to the site. We'll be able to, it won't have a full basement. It's going to have a crawl space. It's a single story house for the most part. And the grading, the material that will be excavated during the construction of the crawl space will be used to grade around the house. So the grading impact will be much less. Other than that, I think it's pretty straightforward. I'm happy to answer any question.
Thank you, Ted. Jason. Sorry about the mix-up.
No worries. Aaron, you mentioned that the sediment controls are right up to the 30-foot buffer. I didn't see them on the new plan unless they're represented by that dashed line. I just want to make sure that that's not an oversight and that everyone is still on board with those. And my other question was, Ted, thank you. You answered my other question about the grading.
Yeah, so I don't see a label on there, but I would suspect that the intention would be to put the erosion, you know, that dashed line represents erosion controls similar to the old plan.
It does indeed. That was the intent, to maintain the original, you know, that original erosion control line on the 30-foot buffer. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any more? Looks like Rachel is up.
I get a little nervous when I hear that you're only a foot or two above an adjacent wetland and what that's going to be like for the residents. That's your problem. But I am curious. So I was looking at the grades and I'm very curious. It looks like the road adjacent to the house dropped 3 feet from the original plan. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Oh, that's okay. And so, because I was trying to figure out how you have a steep driveway in both cases and it's about similar length. And I was trying to figure out why the house was so much lower. Then I realized the road itself, the grading of the existing site has changed and the grading of the road has changed. And that's why the plan, that's why you're where you're at. It's the road grades are different. They're lower. So to tie in them, the house has to be lower.
Between the issuance of the original NOI, following the issuance of the original NOI, Tofino Associates had an as-built plan produced by a surveyor in order to convey the right-of-way to the town. And that as-built plan was used to generate the new plan, as opposed to the design plan from 2003, which was used to generate the original plan. So it allowed us to lower the grade somewhat and make the house, lower the finished floor height of the house. And the other reason that the house was lowered was because we're trying to make the house universally accessible. So the first floor will be, you'd be able to roll in from the garage, roll into the house. We wanted to make the grade much less steep to the road.
Thank you both. Erin?
Ted, I just wanted to ask a follow-up to Jason's question about the erosion control boundary. Would it be possible to since there's less grading and less fill being brought in, to actually reduce the limit of disturbance on the site. In other words, is there any opportunity to pull the limit of work line back closer to the house footprint and away from the resource area boundary anymore?
Hadn't considered it. I think we just wanted to maintain the line that was approved in the original NOI.
Okay.
All right. I'm okay with that, with what I'm seeing. As far as it being a minor administrative change that I'm okay with approving. I'm not sure how else to take it other than a quick straw poll. Anyone who's okay with it, hands up. I don't see Alex or Bruce, but I see Bruce this up. Yes.
Yes, mine's a, yes.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion that we need, or?
Yes.
Okay, so if anybody can put together, I suppose, a motion to approve the request for minor administrative change to Concord Way Lot 6.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, moved by Jason, seconded by Alex. Alex,
Aye.
Bruce,
Aye.
Rachel, Jason,
Aye.
and I'm an aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Ted. I hope you have a good end of the year, and we'll see you around.
Happy holidays to everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Ted.
And Eversource on College Street Substation.
Yeah, so this is also, I don't believe, a substantive change in the least. There's an existing fence line that's very tight up against the approved substation modification, and the project proposes to install several gates in the location of the existing fence line. This is for worker safety, so that people aren't pressed between the gate and the substation while they're working and potentially risking an accident. So it would give them the opportunity to open the gate so they can work on the substation. It doesn't change the location of the fence, the approved fence line. It just puts gates in the location where the fence line was. So
recording in progress.
I don't think that the commission really even needs to approve anything unless you guys have any objections or think that there's an issue with them just proceeding as they have proposed.
I don't personally, I don't see it as any kind of an issue that would affect our job.
Okay. Any other issues?
Anyone
Okay.
else? Any objections? Okay, I guess we're looking for a motion to approve the request for minor administrative change to Eversource's College Street Substation.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Bruce, right?
No.
Oh, Alex, you are on. Okay, you're on twice, and one of you is muted, and the other one, now you're both on. Okay, so Alex with Jason with a motion, Alex with a second. Alex,
Aye.
Rachel,
Abstain.
Bruce,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So it's approved.
And then the last item is, so at the last meeting, we closed the hearing for the 25 to 35 University Drive and 422 Amity Street project, and I was preparing to issue an order of conditions tonight. However, in recent communications with the applicant, they've done some pricing for materials relative to their project, and based on some high steel prices, they're doing some adjustments to the plan. And so what they've asked of the commission is basically to not issue the order of conditions tonight and to instead await a revision, and that they will notify abutters and repost the legal ad and intend to reopen the public hearing so the commission can reconsider the adjusted plan sometime in early February at our meeting. So there's no action required. It's mostly just to let you know that that request has been made.
Thank you. And now a quick, I mean, I think we should at least talk about the hunting on conservation land.
Chair? Oh. I got problems.
What is that?
I gotta go. I don't know how many times I'm on.
Yeah, you're on twice.
Yeah, I can't talk without,
Nope.
I just removed the other one. So try now.
okay. I just wanted to say from a procedural standpoint, before we get into a discussion of hunting. Right now, there is no hunting issue on the table. On December 3, the commission voted not to approve the proposed alteration to the hunting policy. So that means that the status quo, the existing policy allowing hunting, remains and is in effect. And there is nothing before the commission other than that. The commission decided to not approve it. Therefore, the issue is dead in terms of commission actions. And it will not come back to the commission. As far as I'm concerned, the issue is with the subcommittee if the subcommittee wants it to be. But there's nothing that the subcommittee has moved to bring back to the commission. So that's the status quo.
Well, when we had this discussion in the last meeting, the proposal was put up to approve what the subcommittee had put together. That was then amended to take out the hunting and a couple of other items that you mentioned earlier that needed to be reworked.
Right.
That we were going to revisit the hunting this week.
Well, we can revisit it all you want. All I'm saying is no action before the commission at this time. And so procedurally, I just want to be clear that there is not a procedural matter before the commission at this time on that subject. We want to have a discussion about it. Great. I got no objection to that. I just wanted to make it clear what I said.
I'm sorry, last meeting that we had, there was a proposal to ban hunting on conservation land within the town of Amherst. And we can't just make a proposal like that and then all of a sudden make it not be an issue.
I don't disagree, but the procedurally, the commission made a conscious decision not to approve what was coming before it. And it approved all the other changes, and again tonight. So there is nothing for the commission to act on now or any time in the future unless another proposal comes forward. So I don't have a problem with having a discussion. I just wanted whoever is on to talk for them to understand that we're not acting on anything.
I think I think we've got your point several times.
Thank you.
David?
Can you hear me? Thanks, Andre. Yeah, I would agree with Alex. I think perhaps we could just talk briefly about procedure, because I think Alex is correct. At the last full commission meeting, the commission basically voted not to move forward with banning hunting on conservation land. That was brought forth from the subcommittee with the vote and support of the 3 members of the subcommittee, Alex, Michelle, and Bruce. So it came to the commission said, no, we're not ready for this, or we want to talk more about it, and all of that discussion happened. And then it was put back to the subcommittee, and the subcommittee really hasn't decided how to move forward with that. I think, Andre, you were at the meeting. That meeting just happened yesterday. So procedurally, there is no proposal. It is the status quo. Hunting is allowed on 7 or 8 areas. Those are on the website. And there is no change to the hunting regulations. The commission could decide to change that in the future, but right now there's nothing before the commission. I did suggest a couple of options that might be brought forth in the new year. One being kind of approve everything or consider and take to a vote everything the subcommittee has brought forth and might bring forth in January, and set aside hunting for a more robust conversation about hunting, and bring in and have kind of a roundtable and take some time in 25 to bring in, for instance, the state expert, Andre, that you have referenced a number of times.
Yeah.
I would also caution tonight, it is not on the agenda. So there really shouldn't be a substantive discussion of this because it wasn't posted as an agenda
Okay,
item.
I get this. I think I'm going to stop you for a minute.
Can I
Dave?
say one more thing?
Yeah,
It
go
would
ahead.
be prudent if there are people in the audience, if you wanted to give them 3 minutes each for public comment, that would be fine. But I think having the commission not take any kind of substantive conversation because
I
it's
agree.
not on the agenda.
Look, okay. It's
That's
not on
just-
the
that's
agenda
just-
because you didn't put it on. I requested it be put
Actually,
on.
Andre,
I requested it be put
could I
on.
respectfully
I think
stop
we're-
you? Could I just,
No,
could I please say this one thing? The agenda is not,
I am going to speak now and you can answer in a minute,
fine.
okay? Last week or 2 weeks ago, we were this close to banning hunting in Amherst. And Dave, you didn't request extra time to discuss that. Okay, nobody did. If I hadn't said something, I think we would have been close to banning hunting in Amherst, or at least on Amherst conservation lands. So why is it that now, and then I requested that it be put on the schedule for today. And after requesting it, I also requested that we invite Martin Feehan, who is the specialist in the wildlife biologist for the state, that we invite him here, and we didn't invite him. So either Dave or somewhere along the line, it wasn't put on. So how is it that we get from let's ban it to, wait, we need to hear from folks who want to ban it? Or but how did we get there? Now, Dave, thanks for waiting, and go ahead.
So again, as I said before, this is not a staff proposal. This was a proposal brought forth by 3 of your colleagues on the commission. So staff had, we were part of those meetings that any of you could have been part of. So let's set that aside for a minute. I have nothing to do with the agenda setting. The agenda setting falls squarely with the chair. So Michelle works with Aaron to set the agenda. Because of the timing, it was only 2 weeks ago, and the subcommittee meeting yesterday, Michelle working with Aaron, that did not, a substantive agenda item on this matter was not deemed to be critical to have on tonight's meeting. That's as simple as it gets. So there is plenty of time to invite an expert from the state to come in. There is simply no proposal since the commission sent this back to the subcommittee for more work and more discussion. So Alex was right earlier. We should be, if we follow procedure, the expert from the state, anyone who wants to, should come to a subcommittee meeting where this is on the agenda. Or, as I have suggested, the commission takes this up in 2025 as a substantive agenda item at one of their meetings in January or February, and we have a robust discussion on hunting. That's his, there's no hidden agenda here. It's simply procedural and the crunch of getting things on the agenda.
Yeah. All right. I agree with having a substantive discussion. I just find it to be ironic that when we had a proposal brought up to ban the hunting 2 weeks ago with no further discussion, we're now, and it was urgent, it seemed. And we had, my understanding after last meeting was that we were going to be discussing the hunting today. And then I requested that it be put on the schedule, and it wasn't. And I had no answer.
Well, that's something to take up. Yeah, that's something to take up with the chair.
Absolutely.
But I will say,
but that's not right. We need if there's going to be a denial, then there should be an answer at least.
I don't know. Did you ask Michelle to put it on the agenda?
I asked Aaron to have Michelle put it on the agenda. Aaron?
Yeah, so this is, I'd like to just have a little, procedurally, when something comes to me, typically what I do is let both Dave and Michelle know this request came in. The request, when me and Andre discussed it, it was, I want to say it was Wednesday afternoon of last week when we discussed it. I had to post the agenda by noon on Thursday for the meeting and get the packets out. And so I contacted both Michelle and Dave. The response was the agenda is already very full. It wasn't, I guess, the messaging that I received was that it wasn't necessarily they didn't want this individual to come. It was more so that they didn't think it was appropriate to put it on for this specific meeting. And then the other piece of that was there was already a plan to have it discussed at the subcommittee meeting on Tuesday, and it was on the agenda for the subcommittee meeting on Tuesday. And when I set the agenda for a Concom meeting, it's typically the Concom business that I go over with the chair in advance, but then there's also the subcommittee piece, which Alex is the subcommittee chairperson. And so I say to Alex, can you tell me the subject matter that we're going to be discussing as an update to the commission from the subcommittee meeting? And that was a piece that I didn't get a response on in time to put on the agenda. So I just put it on as a general subcommittee update item. So since I didn't get confirmation that the gentleman could come from Fish and Wildlife, and I didn't get confirmation that it was going to be a subject matter for the subcommittee, that's why it wasn't on the agenda from my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I did mention that that this gentleman from Fish and Wildlife can't come without an invite, and what I was looking for is for us to invite him so that he could make it. I think we'll have an opportunity to talk about the hunting in the future. I want to do that. And what I don't want to do is have a decision made without the folks who are interested to be heard, and without the experts. And what it was looking like was that we weren't going to talk about it at all. I mean, Alex just said it's a dead deal, and the subcommittee's gonna take it. We didn't even approve the subcommittee to continue, have we?
No.
We forgot that. I just remembered that. But the subcommittee, as far as I know, is it doesn't have, you guys don't have approval to continue. And frankly, I think it's time to bring these kinds of things to the full CONCOM. So, all right. Well, I did a lot of work to get ready for today, for later on, or for a discussion on hunting. That's fine. I don't have to do it in the future. Jason.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. I would just like to propose then, this seems to be something of a hot button issue with a number of folks. There's seemingly some folks here from the public that there's additional folks here from the public. You have wanted to invite an expert. I would like to propose that we set a specific day or a specific meeting. I would suggest February. One of the February meetings, to have this on the agenda to discuss the as Alex mentioned, right now it's status quo. So hunting is still allowed, nothing's changed. To allow time for Andre, Mr. Feineman, I believe it was, to be invited, to put together any relevant information, and for the public to be well aware of it, so that any interested parties can attend and make public comment. I'm not opposed to hearing from the public tonight who are still here. But I think that we should move forward with setting a specific date. I will suggest the second meeting in February. And we move forward that way.
I think that's a good suggestion, Jason. Thank you. Aaron, is there room for these? While we're talking, can you just see if there's enough room in one of those meetings?
Yeah, the February meeting, there's I believe 2 hearings that will be on that agenda, but I don't see any reason why we couldn't set aside under the land management segment of the meeting at the beginning. I would just need to know sort of how much time we want to allot, so that I can make sure applicants know when to show up.
I'd be happy to ask what the length of the presentation would be and so on, if you'd like me to.
Okay.
You can also probably see parts of other presentations that he's done online. If you look into your correspondence folder, you'll find his name, and I think he's done a couple of public meetings that have been recorded, just to get an idea if you guys are interested. Thanks. Dave?
Yeah, I think I'd be happy to share with the full commission my recommendation to the subcommittee, and one of my recommendations was we carve this off and we have some sort of structured discussion about it in the future, and that's what's evolving here. So I'm pleased.
Thanks. Bruce?
I was going to agree with Jason. I would have said what he said, except he did it better. I do think I would request as the other member of this subcommittee, I do think that we could use at least 1, if not 2 meetings to wrap up our work exclusive of hunting, so that the commission would have the full input of what this subcommittee has been working on for almost 2 years. So I would propose that we ask you for an extension of at least 1 or 2 meetings, but that's up to the chair, Alex, as the chair.
I brought that up.
So Alex, how many meetings do you think you guys need?
Well, everything takes 3 times longer than I think. So I would say 3 months.
With an impulse to get it done quicker.
I'm sorry, Bruce, I can't hear you well.
Just to try to get it done quicker, that would be our impulse.
I
Yeah,
understand that, but I had 7 items on the agenda for yesterday, and I got through 3.
all right. How about this? Why don't you guys have 3 meetings? There are 3 items that need to be, three different, topics, right? That you have, where did you write that?
Yeah,
You-
those,
Oh,
I
you have
gave
you have a
you-
community gardens, forest management, bird banding and beavers.
I
That's
could be
4.
wrong, that was from measurement, that was from memory. But
Yeah. So do you think you can do it in 3? And
no,
be done with it? You can't?
no. I'm gonna tell you, I'm always wrong. I was wrong yesterday. And then,
Well,
so I'm just being honest with you. The community gardens started in August of 23. Just, it's been through the committee several times and it just takes a long time. We can't, and one of the reasons it takes a long time, not to belabor this, is that the deliberative process means that we need to all be together. And somebody drafts and the deliberative process that we have to go through makes it frankly quite difficult to get things done. And so we wind up talking a lot when we meet. And I am a very bad judge of how much talking is going to occur. That happened yesterday. And so I'm not going to say I can get it done in 3 meetings. I'll tell you that if you give me 3 months, I'll probably finish early. But we had this discussion last June when people thought we could be done by Labor Day. And I argued for the end of the calendar year.
yeah, I mean, it's been extended several times. It was supposed to be done a year before you're proposing.
Oh, I have been on this committee as chair since its inception, and it's excruciating the amount of time it takes to get something done.
Okay, all right. Are there real quick, Bruce and then Jason. Bruce?
No, I agree with Alex. I think if we had an extension of 3 months, we would endeavor to get it done sooner. I think I can speak for Michelle about that because we're all getting pretty tired, but we also want to wrap it up in a good way.
Okay, thanks, Bruce. Jason?
If this has been carved out, if the hunting has been carved out of that subcommittee, what happens to it then? And if we're going to hear from people, we're going to hear from experts, we're going to have the public comment on this at the end of February, then is this going to get rolled back in? Will this become a separate subcommittee or?
Yeah, I can help you with that. I think the idea is that that the hunting stays with the general commission.
Okay.
And it's been carved out of the subcommittee. And we address it as a commission.
Okay. And if we do put this on the public agenda, I know we have a few people here in favor of hunting. There always is the chance that we get a lot of people here who wish for the commission to ban hunting.
I'm sure there will be.
So I think we ought to bear that in mind when we're setting aside time for conversation, for public comment.
Good point. Yeah, I mean, I don't expect this to be a one-sided issue, but I do expect it to be a civil and open-minded discussion with being open to understanding what everybody's points are. Is there any opposition to extending the the charter, if you would, for another 3 months. I'm not opposed. All right. Alex and then Dave.
I move that we extend the charter for the subcommittee 3 months.
I second that.
Okay, motion to extend the charter committee to 3 months to through the end of March.
Did we lose Bruce?
With Alex
Here.
with the motion and Jason on the second. All right. Jason,
Aye.
Bruce,
Bye.
Alex,
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Dave?
Yeah, I was just gonna make a recommendation to everyone present tonight that you send Michelle, again, this is just a recommendation, that you send Michelle ideas as chair of the commission, how to structure this process. Because I think it speaks to kind of Jason's earlier comment. We need to figure out how this is addressed by the commission, given other work of the commission. In other words, I haven't heard anything more about the structure of how we discuss this as a group this large, other than I know Andre would like this expert from the state to come in, and we'd like to hear from the public, but we need to have more of a structured discussion. It's not going to happen in one night. It would be over probably a series of meetings. So how do we do that? Many other communities have done this in the Commonwealth. So we have colleagues, we all can, Northampton went through this, many other communities went through this. So we just need to have some sort of structure on how to do it. So I'm going to
Yeah,
talk to Michelle about how to structure that.
Yeah, how to do what? Like how to talk about the hunting issues?
How to structure the discussion so that we have a beginning and a middle and an end. Where are we going with this? What are the outcomes that we want? How do we have a fair and balanced discussion? Those kinds of things. And we also have to keep in mind that you all have a statutory requirement. We can't take up 2 hours of each meeting because you have applicants waiting in line to move their projects through. And I want, these meetings do get very long, and I want to be respectful of all of your time as well as staff time and the public's time.
Jason?
Yeah, I just want to mirror what Dave said. I'm kind of try to clarify my earlier sentiment is that what are we going to be talking about? Right now, there's no change. It's a status quo. So nobody's necessarily proposing that we ban hunting. Nobody's proposing that we keep hunting. Nobody's proposing anything. So this discussion is essentially going to be a public conversation about people want it, people don't want it. But then what do we do with that information?
Yeah.
I could have a conversation with people about how hunting occurs on public land. I think that's a good conversation to have. I think there's a lot of people in town that don't realize that people can hunt in conservation areas in town. I think a lot of people assume you can't, and aren't aware of it, especially people who are new to town, myself being one of them. I was very surprised to find that out, and don't know how hunting occurs. I have no idea I don't hunt. I've never hunted. I grew up in a city. I have no idea how hunting actually happens. And so when you're like, there's people walking around conservation area with guns, shooting deer or birds or whatever, I'm like, that's a terrible idea. And so if it's going to be an educational conversation, that's fine. But I do think it needs to be set up that way, and that everybody needs to understand there's no proposals on the table. We're not voting on anything. It's just strictly an educational conversation.
And sorry, that's exactly what I'm hoping this will be, is an educational opportunity for people, for hunters and folks who use the the lands in other manners to gain an understanding of what each other does. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, because what I've seen, I've seen on on Nextdoor and so on, where folks have been in essence I don't know, have been concerned, like you just said, about folks with guns out in the woods, and it's understandable. But what I reacted to the strongest is the fact that without a conversation and without this kind of an understanding, we put forth a proposal to cut hunting, and we need to be hearing from everyone on this. And I don't mean just the hunting, the pro hunting folks, but there's a lot of fact and a lot of statistics and studies that have been done that I think are important for all, including the subcommittee or anybody who's addressing the hunting issue, to keep in mind. And we're all different, and we all have to respect each other. And I think that's big and important. We do have 3 people from the public, and I'm going to ask them to make whatever comments, if they have any, here in a second. A quick comment from Alex and from Rachel, please. Alex?
Yeah. I just want to say I'm all for dialogue, but what I would like to avoid is getting into a public hearing prematurely and having it. We had many public hearings about dogs, and they were time consuming, and they were heated, and we don't have an issue on the table right now. So I'm happy that people are here in the public to talk about it, but I would advise the acting chair tonight to avoid heating up this issue when there isn't really one on the table right now. And I'll just say, if this ever came to a referendum in this town, I wouldn't be surprised if the town voted it down, being Amherst, and I don't want it to come to this. And if we heat this up too much, it may.
Thanks. Rachel?
Yeah, something that I've just been reflecting on since my newly appointed position here is that we, as the Conservation Commission, has its guidance, but we also are acting in almost an educational role to members of the community, to applicants, to each other. We're learning from each other in these conversations. And I get personally really upset when an applicant misrepresents something that's not right and true, because then it's spreading misinformation to you guys and to the public. Like, a standard, they say this is the standard, and it's like not the standard. So one of the questions as we're talking about this, I'm wondering about, is the subcommittee has taken a lot of time on each of these issues, and they've had conversations, they've tried to get research, they've tried to make educated decisions on things, and there's missing information. And Andre, what you're talking about makes total sense to me. Get the stats, get the figures, help inform, help bring more information to the table. But then what happens a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, and everyone here who has been part of that process has moved on? What happens then? And it's almost, I don't know if there's a mechanism for the commission, for the town, to have like a clearinghouse of research or studies that have informed, is it a Google Doc, or is there something almost like citing paper research that information, if the commission in the future wanted to revisit this topic, they could go back and look at deer stats, car accidents, Lyme disease. They could look at you know, all the things that went into that decision and making that decision. As a resource to the commissioners and to the general public. I was just thinking.
Yeah, it was pretty hard to find some of the stats that that you can find here in your folders. A lot of it was found by my wife, who was possibly a little more moved than I was, if you can think that possible. But as far as the ultimately the stats, all those stats are handled by this deer expert, that Martin Feehan, who I was proposing would speak to us. And so and they've been gathering these statistics for a long time. So those there will be somebody in that position, if you would, who can be mined for information, or who will be very happy to share their statistics and their give the statistics some interpretive meaning as well.
Yeah, I think it's this issue, but it's also, you know, the dog, you know, I'm new, so I wasn't part of the dog conversation, and, you know, so I missed out on a lot of that conversation. It's like, you know, someone who hasn't been apprised of that, and that conversation or that body of research or that body of discussion may have a different take on things. So
maybe we can come up with some way to maintain at least continuity of.
more like a library of, it's not meeting notes, right? It's more like if there was a study that was especially helpful, or a resource guide that was especially helpful to the commission, to have that as a resource.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks, Rachel. Bruce.
I move that we double check with the members of the public to see if they have a comment about this, and then adjourn.
Let's check. I see a hand up. Patrick. How do I bring him in? Oh, there you go. You got him in. Hi, Patrick. If you can state your name and address, and go ahead and tell us what you got.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. My name is Patrick Drum, and I live at 64 West Pomeroy Lane in South Amherst. I am a newish hunter. Actually, I'm first generation. I'm actually teaching my father to hunt, along with both of my kids. I take my kids out scouting in the conservation land here in South Amherst. And I would also definitely invite you all to meet with the experts, not just the state experts. The federal U.S. Fisheries and Wildlife headquarters is in Hadley behind Staples. They control, they're in charge of all of northeastern United States, along with they have input into the corridor up into Canada. As far as hunting goes, the state Fisheries and Wildlife is looking to extend the deer season for Western Massachusetts because of the deer population. On top of that, because of the rising deer population, they're actually looking at adding a second bear season in the spring because the bear population has gotten so out of control. So they're looking to cull the boars in the spring. And I do both of that. I do both deer hunting and bear hunting. A few of the local orchards know that I have a bear tag every year, so they've reached out to me to call the nuisance bears on their properties. You know, I do live across the street from Hickory Ridge. I know that's not open to hunting, but the deer population is very robust there, and the farms on the Hadley line do hunt those deer. But it is important, I think, for the folks on this commission to definitely get educated on the purpose of hunters, understand that the state is desperate for hunters, because of the exploding populations among the hunted species. For myself, I use the meat to supplement what my family eats. And my kids enjoy being out in the woods. And eventually, when they're old enough to hunt, I'm sure they'll probably join me for the hunts. But yeah, that's all I had to say. I wish I had known this topic was going to be discussed before it came up for a vote. I do know as soon as it reached the newspaper, I had a few folks reach out to me to kind of say, hey, did you know about this? Then I'm currently mentoring 8 people in Orchard Valley, the neighborhood behind me. I have 6 guys and 2 gals that have started their journeys into hunting, and I am mentoring them throughout the seasons. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick, and thanks for what you're doing. Yeah, and you know, a lot of the you will find out when we invite the expert, but one of the things that he's working with folks in Amherst on is donating meat to the food pantry. And he mentioned that in my conversation with him, and he can tell us more about that too. So there's a lot of benefits. Is there anybody else from the public who would like to speak? Raise your hand and we'll get you in. All right, doesn't look like anyone else is either able to or wanting to come in, or so with that, I guess we're done for now. We're going to be talking about this. Aaron, is this going to be on the schedule then for February something?
Yeah, February 12th, I believe, is our February first hearing in first meeting in February. Just double check that.
Yeah, I think Jason was
Yes.
pushing for the next, which I guess would be the 26th.
Oh,
Is
the
that-
26th of February? Yeah,
If
we don't
that-
have anything on that agenda, so I could, schedule like I could push back hearings even, but I don't know how much time we think I should allot on the agenda.
Why don't we take it bite by bite instead of a whole long session? Why don't we allow an hour for a presentation, and maybe if there's someone else who wants to present some other view or something. I mean, to me, the biggest, what was most important is that we have a discussion with facts, that we make proposals with some statistics behind them, if you would, when we do. And I think this is a good opening to with some facts and some we could do some learning there. So an hour to start with, and then we can see what we can do in an hour, and maybe put it up for the next meeting after that, or 2 meetings after that. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. So I'll let Michelle know that, the commission decided this, and we'll put it on for the 26th. And then future meetings will I think it makes sense to me, like if we're going to do it more than one date, that we assign what dates it's going to be on ahead of time, because for a meeting agenda, like if we're on the 26th, putting it on the next agenda, it starts to get a little
Yeah.
depending on applications coming in and stuff. I just want to make sure we have the time and the space.
How about once a month? So the 26th, so the 26th of February, 26th of, is this a leap year that we're going into? It is, isn't it?
Yeah, 26th and 26th.
All right, so the 26th, and then the following, what, 23rd?
So we're gonna have 3 meetings in a row for an hour each,
Well, those are, yeah.
or I mean,
meetings-
3 once a month for an hour. We're gonna talk about hunting. Do
I
we?
guess not, huh?
I mean, that seems like a lot to me. Like,
Okay.
I think we could probably handle it in one meeting, but I mean, I'm deferring to you guys as in terms of what your thoughts are.
Is Bruce still with us?
I think he is.
I am.
I just can't see him.
What's your question, Alex?
Working.
We're making some unilateral decisions here. And I don't know where the issue is, but I object to unilaterally, I think the acting chair wanted to pull the issue from the subcommittee to the commission. And that's not been voted on. And I would rather have the issue, if it remains, to be in the subcommittee, and anybody can participate in the subcommittee. Andre was there yesterday, and there are some, who knows what would come out of the subcommittee. But I don't, it's, the subcommittee's job was to review all the policies. Now, all of a sudden, we're saying, review all the policies except hunting. And that's just terribly inconsistent to me in terms of the charter. So I object to unilaterally dismissing the subcommittee on this topic.
Okay. So you object to, so you want this topic to be controlled by the subcommittee, is that what you're saying?
Well, it depends what topic we're talking about. If we're
The
talking
topic
about,
of hunting is what you just mentioned.
I don't have any problems with having discussions at the commission level with whoever you want to talk about or talk to. But in terms of the policy, that was the charter of the subcommittee. And to slice out elements of our overall policy and say, well, you're not gonna do that anymore. That, we haven't voted on that, and I would object to it on principle, because there may be, who knows what would come to this from the subcommittee if the subcommittee chose to bring anything forward. But right now, the policy that has always existed remains. And so have all, I don't want to be misunderstood. I'm in support of somebody coming to the full commission to talk about deer hunting.
Okay, Alex.
Squirrel hunting.
So what you're saying, I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to help to get this meeting over. What you're saying then is we have 2 different topics. One of them is the educational issue, and the other is the regulations. It's not policy. Please, let's refer to it as regulations, because they're laws. Policy is how you apply it.
I got it.
So
we're saying the same thing.
Okay, so I don't have an objection to that, other than really I think you guys already had a bite at that, but fine.
Well, there was not the political will on the commission to approve it.
Okay,
So
so you guys, all right, so is there any objection to the subcommittee retaining hunting?
There's nothing that precludes us from discussing it at the subcommittee and bringing a suggestion forward during these other conversations.
All right, do you need another month for that too?
Well, it's part of, no, that's not.
Okay.
No.
All right. Sorry, Bruce. Jason.
I would like to propose that we limit the conversation to hunting on the 26th and the 26th to half an hour. We don't know what kind of applications for projects we're going to get. And I would propose we have 3 meetings, the 26th to 26th and the second meeting of April, to discuss those, half an hour at each meeting, to discuss hunting for educational purposes in front of the full commission. That is my proposal. An hour talking about hunting, while I think it probably will be educational. I don't think we need 3 hours spread over 3 meetings. And like that, we're going to have other issues, and it's 10:17 now, and we're only talking about it. So I would like to just suggest we keep it to half an hour per meeting for 3 meetings, the second meeting of each month, beginning in February.
That's a great idea.
All right, then I move to adjourn.
Well, Erin still got her hand up.
Sorry.
I
I
second-
rescind my,
That was
rescind my motion to
accidental. I'm
adjourn.
falling asleep. I'm sorry.
All right, we
I
have a
second.
movement.
I
Do we
second
have
the
a
motion.
All right, Bruce seconds. Bruce,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Much.
guys. Have a good night.
Happy holidays, everybody.
You too.